Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
He's a fan favorite, and I think he's much more in the public eye.
I give more credit to the fans.
I'm waiting for them to prove me wrong.
Vinatieri's on the ballot, he will get
How long
it.
we been doing this?
I tell the story about going to Nashville for a conference, and I was in the first row, a woman and her son sitting next to me, and I hear the woman say, why do they just keep nominating? He's never going to get in. Why don't they just take his name off? And I realized it was Rabel's wife and his son.
Will Campbell is not good at his position. That's a bust of a pick. I'm
he
sorry.
plays guard.
Yeah, I know, and that's
But
not
he's
that's
still
not good
playing.
value. But that's not good value.
Forget about the
Mason
value.
Graham
the
will
value,
play.
But we've
Fred,
already established
if
that the
Mason
value
Graham-
isn't there in this draft.
If Mason Graham is not a very good defensive tackle,
Yeah.
he's going to continue to play defensive tackle. They're not just going to cut him.
But he's not going to be good at it.
No, just like the guy who can't play tackle.
But he can be good at guard. And there's a program in Peloton where you can choose to ride through like cities or whatever. And one of the options was Marseille, France. Eric would like that. So
the attention that the stewardesses give,
and
like
listen,
it's just
in
to
terms
complain
of
about it is just
this
kind
guy,
of.
stewardesses.
yeah, they call them flight
They're flight
attendants.
attendants.
Oh, are they?
Come on.
Yeah.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and it's Paul, it's Evan, it's myself, Deuce, Alex, Matt in the booth, and we're here for the next 2 hours talking Patriots. Big news day. The news just keeps coming here in the off season, huh?
Sure does. What off season?
Yeah. Joe Milton, no longer a Patriot, according to reports.
Yeah. Funny because we recorded Patriots Draft Countdown yesterday and posted it, and we had the exact discussion of, is it worth it to trade him now? What kind of value would you want back? And I think based on what we said yesterday before, maybe a little bit disappointed with the return. Fair to say?
Are we certain on what that is? I don't know exactly.
Yeah,
think
so
report-
now we know that it's pick 171 for pick 217 in Joe Milton. So the Patriots now have 171 in the fifth round.
In the fifth round.
Correct.
Okay.
Which was a comp pick for Dallas.
Okay.
And that does close a sizable gap that the team had between their other picks. So, I mean, I'm not, yesterday we all said, I think, Paul, you said, or Evan, you said top 100 pick. Paul, you said top day one or two
Day two pick.
Yeah.
The day two pick is what I would, if I was going to move him, because he's young, he's affordable, and if you want to continue to work with him, isn't that more valuable than moving him for a swap of, what did you say, about 40 or 50 spots?
Something like that.
Like,
I'm not good at math.
Now, I wonder if maybe they had felt like we can have a chance to get something for him now. Let's take it, and maybe they didn't see the value that we kind of saw, after the Buffalo game last year.
So I go back to our conversation when Joe Milton first got drafted, and you bringing up why they do this. Why are they bringing?
It's been in the back of my mind all morning.
Yeah. So now,
Same.
2 years later, is it maybe we don't need that distraction?
I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's been in the back of my mind.
Yeah, 1 year later.
That's how I feel
Yeah.
about it. That's the only explanation I can get to that makes logical sense to me is that they wanted to clear the decks for Drake May and make sure that there was no Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi 2.0 potentially brewing, and they felt like this was the best approach. You have Josh Dobbs, who's a veteran backup that knows his role and knows where he fits on the team, and it's Drake May's team, it's Drake May's quarterback room, and there's no Joe Milton in the background. I'm not saying Joe Milton did anything wrong,
and don't rule out his agent like going to Patriots and say, hey, we want to trade. He's now third in the pecking order, should be second, whatever. Don't rule it out that the agent's part of this too. Like, I want to get him on a team where he at least has a better chance of getting out there.
I think that's a great point, Fred.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked at all if Milton was driving this trade.
Yeah,
There's
there's a little bit of reporting in
Go
that.
ahead.
Yeah, Mass Live has a couple of reports about that, that potentially Joe Milton was, I don't know, wanted to use requested a trade, but maybe it was kind of like, where do I fit into this entire thing? But I just look, he's going to Dallas. Like, they have a $60 million quarterback. Like, it's not like he's going to start in Dallas. So I look at the way that Vrabel has moved all offseason, and I just think that he cares a lot about the dynamic of the locker room and the culture and, that sort of thing. And I think they felt like there was a potential tension that could be caused there by Joe Milton. And if you keep him around and he has a great preseason and a great training camp,
Distraction.
It's a
Sure.
It might have helped his trade value, but it might have also been a distraction.
Yep. So Joe Milton off the team. We can put that one to bed. That whole discussion.
Reportedly.
It's now the Josh Dobbs era here. in New England.
For the backups.
Yeah.
Get ready. I also just wanted to point out there are also reports that the Patriots had better compensation offers, but chose to send him to Dallas because that's where Milton wanted to play. So
Oh.
that's also a report that's
Okay.
out there.
Yeah. So Freddie
Paul
and I,
and I
playing,
were,
playing a little
yeah,
catch up
yeah.
with some of this stuff. I find that one really interesting and really, not shockingly, hard
Yeah.
to believe.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe too because like you're gonna, out of respect to a guy that was on your team for 1 year, you're gonna send him to a desirable place, but then you're just gonna
Right.
cut Juwan Bentley, who's a longtime captain, at like weeks
And not-
after free agency
Not
starts.
only a guy that has been on the team for 1 year, but a guy that they didn't really have this coaching staff didn't really
had
have
no
a connection to.
Like, what do you owe Joe Milton?
Yeah,
I don't.
I mean,
I
I
don't
think
know.
this might be one of those semantics things. Like maybe someone was willing to offer them, a 6th-round pick without a pick swap, or a 5th-round pick maybe without a
Right.
pick swap,
It's not
something
like
like that.
they left this first rounder on the table.
Correct.
Yeah. Right.
But it'll be
Dramatic.
interesting. We're going to
So
hear
dramatic.
from Josh McDaniels at 1 o'clock, and I'm sure
And
that'll
we'll
be
go
one
to
of the
that
questions.
live on the show. So when Josh McDaniels is speaking today,
There's a lot going on.
yeah, they offensive coaches are speaking in a scrum setting, but the coordinators are going to the podium. So Josh is falling during the show. So we're going to go to him live when he's up at the podium. And, hear what he has to say.
Yeah, I think if it's all right, Evan and I'll go and also just listen in on
Oh,
some of
that's
the.
not all right.
Oh,
I was
no,
gonna
we can.
say,
But we want to listen in on the
Finger
offensive
whack.
coaches. We haven't met the offensive coaches yet in person, so it'll be a
mean
first
they haven't
chance
met
to.
you?
Well, of course,
Right. Okay.
They don't know who the Deuce is yet.
Right.
He's going to ask the tough question.
Yeah.
Deuce and the ball nowhere.
I lurk.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Um,
I will admit to being a little surprised that the Milton thing came down the way it did. Not the compensation or anything like that. That to me is about what I was expecting, something day 3-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought they would hold on to him. I'm a little surprised they made the trade.
Well, it's interesting because the news broke while Paul and I were in the Hall of Fame committee, and I saw a couple scribes having to scratch
Oh, took Milton off the
their
list, yeah.
Oh,
No.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, did you see him throw the ball? And
That
See his
one
back
throw.
flip?
Yeah, I just think the compensation. It doesn't surprise me in the respect that he didn't have the market that some people were throwing out there. It surprises me that the Patriots were in a rush to trade him if that was all the compensation was.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
And I just, the only thing that makes any sense is that they were worried about the dynamics in the locker room because there's no rush to trade him. He's on a rookie contract. He's cost controlled. This wasn't an offer that was blowing you away that you were like, oh, we have to take this 3rd-round pick for Joe Milton. So Vrabel's big on it. He's clearly big on all this culture stuff, and that's the only explanation because the compensation's not great.
Yeah, I'm a little torn on it because I've said many times, I believe, draft a quarterback almost every year. It's just great business to always draft one, develop them. But on the other hand, I'm seeing that you can always get something for. You can always kind of just, if they're okay and you do a decent job developing, you can at least tread water and get essentially the same compensation back that you spend on them. So you're running in place a little bit, but there's still value there. And I think they might draft a quarterback this year.
I don't know if this is true, but is there like a maxim in the league where quarterbacks rarely lose value?
Well, that's where my head is at. I think we saw Joe Milton in the preseason and in training camp where it was up and down. It looked pretty good, 7-on-7. I remember being like, and that was when I think Ben Volen wrote, like, we have a true quarterback competition.
The best quarterback in camp.
And then all of a sudden it was 11-on-11, and Joe Milton had a little more trouble and wasn't processing as quick. But he looked better to me in that last game. I know some people are making him out like it was, God's gift in the final game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of taking a quarterback every year, and I would be surprised if they didn't find one somewhere this year as well. I mean, they only have 2 now on the roster. I mean, obviously they'll bring somebody. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. I would expect them to bring someone in,
Yep.
regardless of whether he's drafted or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this one, in terms of, quarterback commodity, maybe this one didn't pan out to give you anything more than what you took, but that shouldn't stop you every year from thinking in those terms. You might be able to draft a quarterback, develop him, and get a little bit more for him than you invested in him.
But I also just don't think that they sold as high on the investment as they possibly could have.
Yeah, and that's why I think that you and Fred might be right about the off-field aspect of this with Drake May, just sort of clearing the decks. Don't give Drake anything. You know, if Drake is all of a sudden, let's say he struggles in the middle of September, 2 or 3 starts in, he's not playing very well, you know that you're going to hear it.
Yeah.
Well, put it Milton. Look what he did against Buffalo last year. You'd hear that, absolutely. So maybe that had part of it, part of the reasoning too.
Yeah, this was always, and when we talked about it when they drafted him, like he has a lot of tools, and the tools are enticing. The arm strength is enticing. The size, the mobility with Joe Milton is all enticing. And if they draft another quarterback, you'd have to think that would be more in that like backup mold, like someone that's truly, not really gonna have the high-end traits that Joe Milton has, because like we talked about then, you see him throw 170-yard bomb where he hits the back foot and the ball just launched out of his arm, and you're just like, that's an incredible throw, and it's attractive, it's tantalizing, and now we get to the point here where I feel like that kind of came to fruition with that Buffalo game. So it's just a weird timing, if you ask me, unless that's it, unless it's dynamic.
Any chance they were just trying to protect the lighthouse, Fred? Is that something that might have been on the docket? They just don't want Joe Milton launching a bomb through that
Broken
lighthouse.
windows.
Too much money.
Break
into
one
it.
of those windows. Yeah, could be. In other news, Paul and I were just at the Hall of Fame committee, and that just broke up. As always,
Spirited?
Fred was not nominated.
Very
No?
good, very good conversation. I can tell you who my first selection is going to be, or was, is Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah.
So
That was mine as well.
yeah. So I think the time is to get him in right now. I think you got lucky that he didn't get into the Hall of Fame kind of, selfishly, because now you can get him into the Patriots Hall of Fame before Canton. So this is that opportunity. Let's do it. I think the voting will be on Patriots.com probably next week. So everybody vote for Adam Vinatieri.
Was there any need for discussion about Bill Parcells? I know Robert Kraft is already putting him in, but did you guys have to talk about that at all or discuss
No,
it?
so Robert Kraft did come by and sort of explain to everybody, he actually apologized to the committee for doing it, sort of without our knowledge. Obviously, no need to do that.
He can do it actually because
Yeah.
It's his show.
it's his team.
So no, we do not discuss the contributors that are named by Robert Kraft. That's just sort of,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Separate
his
entity.
thing.
Mhm.
but yeah, Robert Kraft and Mike Vrabel
Yeah.
came by
Oh,
the
yeah?
Yeah.
meeting.
They
Mike
yell
looked
at you
around.
guys for not getting him in earlier? or
Mike looked
anything?
around. He was a little
Well, he
disappointed.
holds a record in the Hall of Fame.
He was a little disappointed because I think when he started to talk and he kind of made a crack at the beginning, and there was nobody standing right behind him laughing
Yeah.
with their arms folded.
You
so
got, I'm available.
in such a
I
satisfactory
could have been in
manner,
there like,
my-
yeah, get him,
my
Braves.
dudes.
But,
No, he was good. He came by and talked about kind of being that, Susan Lucci type that was always nominated and never won until he finally won.
I thought it was funny though. Like Robert comes in, and people are like, oh, good. Vrabel comes in after him. He goes, "Good morning," and everyone's like, "Good morning." It's like you were like
Coach, he got that big coach
he
energy.
Has
Big
that
voice,
presence.
Gravitas.
big voice, big presence.
He has that presence.
He does.
I have a bone to pick though with your guy, Mr. Mike Felger.
No.
Oh.
I often get pissed off at what he says
I was
So we
because
separated
I
you guys
I was like,
today.
what? I almost said.
Yeah, that's why we were
I
like,
spoke
Sorry,
about
but
Wesley.
Get
I
him
almost
away.
didn't say anything at the
Patriots
meeting
Hall of
today.
Fame.
I listen to the show. I find it entertaining. It's my go-to show. I admit that. But there's times where I hear Felger saying things, and I know the truth, and it's just so aggravating to hear him repeat things. And yesterday's show, he didn't say that the Hall of Committee voting is rigged or anything, but he didn't say it wasn't either. And the fact that he allows that to perpetuate, I wouldn't, if you think it's rigged, I can't blame you for thinking that. Like going on and on.
We got to send our guy in to
just-
defend our honor.
It
White
just,
knight
it just
over here.
His honor.
it just pisses me off because Paul knows that if anything, the people in the room are afraid what the fans are going to vote. It's not there.
Yeah.
There is no thumb on the scale. There's no rigging of this. This is once the 3 people are set, put forth by the committee. It is 100% up to the fans on who gets in.
Yeah, I blame the committee just as much as the fans. I'm an equal
Yeah.
opportunity ripper.
Yeah.
I rip everybody.
But on the highest rated sports show in Boston, they're kind of not, saying that could be a factor, and it
Yeah.
just pissed me off to no end yesterday to hear that.
Oh,
Should
poor
call
Fred.
in Freddie in the car. Call in to.
Yeah, but I.
Freddie and
That's what they want.
Sandwich.
It's not like he's never done it before. He's argued with Felger right here in this very studio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was before he was anybody. He was just a guy on AM radio at the time.
I told Paul when I was at the owners' meetings earlier this week, we were there very early in the morning, and we went and saw where they had stuck Felger on, I would say in quotes, Radio Row, because it was kind of an afterthought. But I took one look at that table. There's like a dumpster there. There's like 3 generators all going. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to fly for Felger. This looks like a rough radio setup. But good stuff.
I give him credit for going down there and thinking, I don't know if it was his idea, but doing that and taking advantage of it, because he got some good guests. Yeah.
Yeah, bright and early. I saw Vrabes and walking over to do the interview, and but we didn't see Felger show up to the little scrum around the table though. He came back for the party though. He was there for the party.
Oh, he
night.
did come back for the
there
party.
for the party.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
He's
Holding
spoke to
court.
some people, he says.
Yep. What else? You got Milton.
What else?
Got Hall of Fame committee. Anything
I would
else?
just, not to reiterate, but like I'm excited to hear from the coaches today. We haven't, like I said, we haven't met any of these guys. We haven't gotten any sense of Josh and what are his thoughts on Drake and the evolution of the offense. I think he's had a lot of people speaking for him about how he's approaching this, what he learned on these college visits that he did over the last year. It's funny. It's like one of those characters all of a sudden comes back to the show that you haven't seen in a couple years. And what has he learned? What's different? How does he feel to be there? So it's gonna be cool, I think, to just hear from Josh McDaniels again. It's just I keep forgetting that he's back. It was like he's such a fixture here for so long.
It's like that's a big thing.
And it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, Josh is back. He's the offensive coordinator again. I totally forgot.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions about the dynamic there. And, were you Vrabel's guy? And Vrabel's mentioned a lot about Todd Downing and Thomas Brown and Doug Marrone having large roles in some of the coordination, frankly, of the offense. And so I am interested to see how that all goes down. And the Patriots have never had a pass game coordinator before. Thomas Brown has got that title now. So it's kind of like the Office Space meme, like, what is it that you do around here? Like, I don't know what that really means. So
people skills.
I'm kind of interested to hear what that exactly entails to him in terms of that role. And, Ashton Grant is now Drake May's coach, quarterback's coach. So that's another new face. So it's a whole reworked coaching staff.
Yes.
Have you seen Office Space?
No.
Put another one on the
Add
list.
it to my list.
Put it on the
Oh,
list.
yeah.
Before or after Jaws?
Oh, Jaws
I mean,
first.
it's way.
Jaws first.
I mean, it's way better than Jaws. So I would watch it
Office
first.
Space
but-
is like a
I
cute,
had to watch
funny
Office
story.
Space twice. The first time I was like, "What is the big deal about this movie?" But then I watched it a second
You
time,
saw it right.
and I was like, "Okay,
It's fine.
Satirical.
But there's
That's
there's
fine.
some
Satirical.
memorable moments in it that are kind of memic, I
Yeah.
guess,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you would
Yeah,
say.
it's just
Okay.
like the one
Yeah.
I just brought up.
Mimic.
Yeah.
Ugh,
Or
I think
when they
Fred coined a
meme-
phrase, I
meme
think.
word.
smash the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's go to some of the reaction for Milton. As you might expect, there are a lot of fans who aren't happy. Les in Ottawa just wanted to begin by telling you how much I enjoy the show, even if Paul is the most persistently negative person I've ever heard. Speaking of which, I would be interested in your take on the Milton trade being announced. If it's true, this seems like the kind of trade a desperate team would make, not a team with a valuable asset they didn't have to trade at all. Milton and a 7th-round pick for a 5th seems like a gift to the Cowboys after a disastrous first season as the upside de facto GM. How does Elliott Wolf survive such a terrible trade? Is it time for him to go? Do you think the Cowboys would give us back the 7th for him? Wow.
I'm going to jump in real quick. I don't know why people get this angry about it. And I know there might be people on the show that are angry about it. I just can't get that worked up about a day 3 trade with a 3rd-string quarterback. Like, you can not like the trade. Great. But is it like a referendum on everything they're doing? Does that overshadow signing Stephon Diggs last week? Now you're all worked up about losing Joe Milton?
I don't know if the person's being sarcastic. But
I don't think that
he
was
is.
sarcastic.
Okay.
And I would just say, because the reason I don't think that email is sarcastic is because it's in line with a lot of what I'm seeing leading up to this trade and now. And because it operates under a flawed premise. Quote unquote, that's all you got for Joe Milton.
Right. There you
As
go.
if you're right, everybody in the NFL is wrong. He's really worth a 2nd-round pick. He could have gone to the Giants so you could flip-flop from 4 to 3 so you could take Travis Hunter. That's what people were legitimately suggesting. Yeah. So if that's your premise, no wonder you think I'm the most negative person you've ever seen. Yeah.
But it's
because
also,
when I'm here to tell you you're going to get a day 3 pick for you, that comes off as negative, but that's reality.
Right. And so much of it just surprises me about that in particular, because every single person I know who covers the team pushed back on the notion that it was going to be something.
Everyone, and I'm often critical of my colleagues for everyone. Evan is 1,000%.
So, like, I don't know where that was coming from, that they were going to get this king's ransom from Joe Milton, because it certainly wasn't coming from anybody here.
It came from that last game.
But I know, but like, where was the actual tangible evidence that they were going to get that kind of return?
Yeah.
Like, every single reporter I know on this beat said it's not going to be as much as you think it's going to be. When people have mock drafts where Joe Milton, to Paul's point, is getting them like the first overall pick by swapping.
You could move up to the Giants, so you can get one of the 2 blue chip players by giving the Giants Joe Milton. They don't have to take Sanders now.
Yeah.
With that
Like, you
being
can move
said,
up.
I agreed that with some of the email, not a lot of it, but some, that the trade was a little hasty. Like, I didn't see any reason to do this, other than if you were, like I keep saying, worried about the dynamic in the quarterback room. Because otherwise you have a cheap, cost-controlled rookie contract quarterback that's signed for the next 3 years. You have a lot of rope there to hopefully get his value even higher. Like, maybe he plays really well in the preseason next year, and maybe somebody gets hurt and, on another team, or a backup quarterback gets hurt around the league or whatever, and maybe you get more in the trade. So the fact that they did it now tells me that there was some dynamics.
There had to be.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like since the second the offseason ended, or the offseason started, we'd been hearing that he kind of wasn't thrilled with his position on the depth chart. He probably wanted out. And obviously that was continuing up until last week. I don't know. Maybe we saw this guy play 1 game, right? Like, these guys evaluating him, saw him practice every single day. Maybe in their eyes, we sold high.
Right. Who knows, right?
I kind of think you're right. I think
fair
that they
point.
looked at it and said, the longer we wait,
Yeah.
the less value he has. Now, I think that Fred's point and Evan's point about the off-field stuff probably has a big part to do with this. May not have been strictly a football trade.
Right.
It
Right.
may have been as much about that as anything else, but that doesn't change his value.
Right.
Just because you want to trade a guy, maybe not for football reasons, doesn't mean you get. That's the only
Yep.
thing you get back from him. You can get as much as you want back for
Yeah.
him. I can't believe that they had, like, someone was offering something significantly more than they took.
Yeah,
And
why
they
wouldn't they
chose
jump
to
on
do
that?
No, I don't think that there was an offer for anything more than what they took. But this, to me, wasn't worth trading him. Like, I would have just kept the
agree.
quarterback.
I agree. I would have just held
know?
on to him because I think that there was
Right.
a chance. Like, I think you
Purely
could.
it
Unless they
wasn't, but if
thought
there
he
were
was
the
going to
other
be
things-
super
Sure.
dramatic.
Even if he
Unless
did
they thought
absolutely
he was
nothing
gonna
all
keep
year,
opening
you
his
probably
mouth.
could have made this trade
Yeah.
this time next year.
Right. Like, basically, you're getting the equivalent of the 6th-round pick back for what you used to draft him. And now, Paul's point earlier, like, they probably are going to have to invest in another late-round quarterback, because they need another quarterback. Unless they're just going to roll with 2, they're going to need another quarterback. So you're basically going to be trading Joe Milton for, like, Curtis Rourke or something like that, late on day 3 now. So I would have waited, but it's the only explanation is
Right.
there was more going on.
Juan in Monterrey, Mexico, I want to start by saying May was always clear number 1 for me. I hate this trade mainly because I don't like Dobbs as a backup, and we already have seen May not finish games. If the reason is because Milton was a distraction, I get it, but Milton has a higher upside than backup than Dobbs.
You might, but Milton's also an older guy. He's not a raw clump of clay that you needed to work with to get it. Like, he's kind of what he is at this point. He needs to learn how to process and get the ball out. Those were the biggest issues to me when we watched him in camp. But I kind of think he's pretty close to his ceiling as he is, especially physically.
And people are acting like we saw him play Buffalo starters last season.
Well, that
They really
yeah.
are.
Well,
And
but
we
the
didn't.
throw was the throw.
The throw was the throw.
No, but we know he
Yeah.
can throw the ball.
Right.
Like, if you watched him at all in college, you know how good his arm is. His skills are off the charts. But as a quarterback, I'm not sure that matches.
Jacob in Rochester, can we talk about how they pretty much gave Joe Milton away? The terms of the trade seem ridiculous and not worth it, especially if he played well in the preseason, could have increased his trade value for the offseason, for next offseason.
Maybe.
I mean, but
I
again,
get it.
we
I
don't
get
know the
it.
extenuating circumstances.
Right, and I think I respect that point of view that maybe you could have gotten more if you had held on to him and why I respect it. What I just don't understand is this feeling of outrage and this is ridiculous, and it just goes back to what Paul said, that you were expecting that this guy was going to come back this spring and summer and maybe be pushing Drake May. Because if he was going to get a high compensation, that's what would have to happen, which may be great for the Patriots if they got a day, first day 2 pick. But at the same time, you're going to be dealing with the drama of, wow, Joe Milton's playing great right now, and it's becoming a controversy.
I would have held on to him for the reasons that Evan said. But, yeah, I totally recognize that he could have played this preseason and did what he did last preseason. And you're getting a pick swap in the 7th round, 6th round, whatever. Or he could have played like he did in the Buffalo game, and maybe you get something significantly more than that. That I could totally hear that. I would have done that. Because to me, this is about as little as you're going to get for a guy. So I don't think he can really hurt. It's not like if he played poorly in the preseason, you were going to get less than that. So I would have held on to him, but I understand what they were doing, and it doesn't sort of outrage me, like to use Mike's point.
It just doesn't dampen my excitement at all.
Well, nothing. Well, I mean, in fairness, nothing has ever dampened your
Probably true.
excitement for anything.
I also
You're
might push.
excited to talk to Josh McDaniels. You and
I know.
sat with Josh McDaniels for hours.
I want more. I need more.
And you're
Still buzzing off that interview.
I can't wait to talk to Josh today.
I was also going to push back on Paul being the most negative person because I don't. And maybe
You're
I'm
up- you're
totally
up
wrong.
there, bro. Off air.
Sneaky
You're up
negative.
there.
But not negative. I think Paul just has this thing where he always is able to see the other side and has a desire to argue it. And it's not necessarily he's always arguing the wrong side. Like if I were to take a negative take, I could see Paul seeing the positive side of it and pushing back with the positive side as well. I just
probably
don't
would've
see
made
you constantly taking a dump on every single take. It's
You probably would have made a great attorney.
right.
I tell
100%.
my son that all the time.
Dan
It's
of
too
Virginia,
lazy, though.
Michigan. You discussed the possibility that Milton was possibly moved to avoid a locker room problem due to the potential for a perception of a quarterback competition. That seems odd to me, given the evaluations of May's ability in comparison to Milton's and the reports of May's competitiveness. Am I overrating May, underrating Milton, or underestimating the potential for QB controversies and the influence of fan and radio murmuring on the locker room? Yeah, it's not. I
I'd
don't
say
think
the last
internally
one.
it's the problem. It's all the external noise. You know.
Yeah, I think it's the last one. We heard it even last year at times, with the last game especially, but just in general about there, just a Joe Milton mania, if you will. And I think that's, to me, that's why the trade was made, was because they were worried that type of thing was going to go down, and it's just better to clear the decks. I don't think they felt like they had this diamond in the rough in Joe Milton that was going to go on to be the next Tom Brady or Kurt Warner that they found on late on day 3. So they just decided that it was not worth it.
Jack in Ann Arbor says something that at first I was like, no. But then I was thinking maybe. He says, instead of the Patriots accepting short value to trade Joe Milton as a favor to Milton, who apparently wanted to go to Dallas, what if the trade was made as a favor to Jerry Jones? Do the Patriots owe Jerry Jones a favor, or do the Patriots expect a favor from Jones in the future? The reason why I was like, that made me think is, what if Jerry Jones wants to create a quarterback controversy?
So I do think that I don't know if that's creating a quarterback controversy, but it does. It is on my mind that there's a possibility that they're having second thoughts about Dak. There was a report about maybe 3 weeks ago. Looks like it was never anything to it, but you never know. Sometimes when there's smoke with these kinds of things, some guy, some like obscure radio guy in Cleveland was suggesting that there was a trade in the works for the Dak Prescott to Cleveland for the number 2 overall pick. Now, that wasn't the entirety of the deal, but that was the crux of it.
And you had to take Deshaun Watson.
And it never really, I didn't hear any of that, but it never like got sort of legitimized by anybody reputable.
Right.
It actually got the opposite.
Right. But but I've also seen that before too. Like, no, that there's nothing to that, and all of a sudden behind the scenes, we've seen that here.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
We've seen that here with stuff that we've known has happened, and then the media scurries and say, no, that never happened. Well, we know it did.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Dallas maybe is having second thoughts about long-term Dak Prescott.
Coming off an injury, too.
Well, again, and that's what, Evan, you made that comment, like, why on earth would Milton want to go there? Might have an opportunity to play, because Dak misses games. Dak's a much better player, obviously.
Yeah, I just don't. Maybe Milton looks at it like he has an opportunity to truly be the backup quarterback there, whereas here he's competing with Josh Dobbs.
Maybe it was the Josh Dobbs thing that caused Milton to say, I want to go.
There's a 0.0% chance that Joe Milton's starting in Dallas. So
for the future? You mean like long term?
Ever.
Yeah, I mean, other than like a spot start here or there.
Yeah. Like, he's not going to be the starter.
No, I agree.
Dallas.
They're not going to supplant Dak Prescott. But
correct.
Like, to Alex's point, if he gets like hurt again and all of a sudden Cooper rushes it and goes in for like 8 games and wins 6 of them, like I just wonder if he looks at it as that kind of an opportunity.
Yeah.
Tony writes in, if Milton were in this year's draft, what round would he have gone? Where would he rank among quarterbacks in this year's draft?
Just a little higher. I mean, higher, but
I don't know.
still
You
think he's
can't.
a
Fourth round?
flyer. Yeah.
I don't think you can look at it though. Like you don't know what you know about his rookie season with the Patriots, right? Like you have to look at it what he was coming out of Tennessee. You can't factor in the Buffalo game and like say that changes your approach. So I still think he's a day 3 pick, even if he came out this year where there's not as many quarterbacks. Like I don't think that he's all of a sudden going in the second round, So I think it might have been a round better, maybe just because it's not as deep of a quarterback class or as good as a quarterback class, but I don't think it would have been much different.
Gerald and Grimsby, my opinion of the trade is whatever. Let's face it, no one was trading for Joe Milton as a starter. He was traded to Dallas, where he is now the backup for a better quarterback than May.
Love it. Whatever.
Whatever.
All right. What else?
It is interesting, though. It's an interesting trade.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Interesting
going on.
morning.
No one should be more upset than our social team. He was really good for
No more?
content.
Oh, really?
The
Practice
backflips, good engagement.
I'd say
He was
also
a good guy on the TikTok. He was nice. He
was a
enjoyed
really nice-
him.
Oh,
He
good
was
guy.
a cool
Seemed
guy.
like a nice kid.
Yeah.
Really
nice
good guy.
kid. I
Always-
didn't talk to him a lot, but when I did, he seemed very nice.
I think maybe the last week of the season was when we got him. He came into the scrum in the Revs locker room, and just great guy. Impressive guy. You understand why so many teams are intrigued by him. He's got every single intangible and tangible. It's just he has to put it all together.
I had a chance to speak to him at one of the television production meetings.
Oh yeah. Oh,
During
for
the
your
summer.
TV hits.
Yeah, and that's why I was sort of
Discount
taken back.
Furniture
Like,
Studio.
this guy seems like he's got a lot going on.
does.
He's really family oriented. Talked a lot about his brother. I think he has several brothers and sisters. I think he has like seven. I think he has a lot of brothers and sisters. If I remember correctly, that's why he wears the number 7. I think he was number 7.
I think you're right.
There's
Yeah, he was an impressive guy.
Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Wish him the best.
for sure.
I remember when they drafted him. I kind of asked around about the dynamic. Obviously they drafted quarterback 3 overall, and we had those discussions. And he had down at the Senior Bowl, they just gushed about the character of Joe Milton, and they have like kind of like a good guy award that they give out. This is the guy that was kind of the best like locker room guy of the week, and he actually won it 2 years ago at the Senior Bowl, and that was the type of guy that everybody thought he was and is. So that's why all this stuff that's been coming out about he had higher aspirations and kind of forced his way out and all that. It kind of surprised me a little bit.
Well, to Fred's point, like it's maybe not only him, but like his agent too.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
maybe he's
Yeah.
not the one speaking up and causing directly the drama, but the agent has a job to do too behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't hold it against him at all. I mean, there's a way to do it. Everyone's aware of what his situation is behind Drake May, and in a perfect world for the Patriots, Drake May is their starting quarterback
That's a
for the
great
next
point.
10 plus
That's the
years.
realistic
So,
way to look at it.
it's not. It's just business. He wants an opportunity.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and
Happens all the
if he
time.
in fact did do it, like he requested it, and you said there's a way to do it, we didn't hear anything really about it.
Yeah, it's not like he's tweeting
Right.
like
Get me out of here.
Emoji eyes.
yeah, the emoji peace
He's
sign.
not
Evan
removing,
took-
he's not
Yeah.
removing
Tyreek
all of,
Hill.
his- all of his
Tyreek Hill this
Patriots
week is just
stuff
tweeting
from his
peace
social
signs.
media
Right,
pages. you know?
changing his profile picture and
Obscure little
unfollowing. Yeah, these
things,
cryptic. Yeah.
Right.
For all I know, he did that like
No.
3 weeks ago. I would never know.
No, he's more mature than that. He's a
Let's
good
get
guy.
to the hotline, 855-PATS-500. That's the hotline.
The hotline.
Is,
Capital T,
hotline.
still
capital
looking
H.
for a sponsor there, right? I guess. Okay.
Good opportunities available.
Yeah.
Jersey Mike's
Jersey
maybe,
Mike's,
huh?
hit us
Jersey
up.
Mike's NFL partnership.
Yeah.
Let's
I don't
go.
even want to talk about
Here we
it.
go.
The world's original
Because I
podcast.
don't- I
Hotline
don't
is
jinx
sponsored by
anything,
a
like,
classic
just-
number 13,
Yeah.
Mike's Way.
I gotta be honest though, like if we were to get sponsored by Jersey Mike's, like we gotta work in actual sandwiches. Like I don't want to just have to do a read.
As
like,
opposed to what,
we
spaghetti?
need- right, well,
What are
no,
you
I mean
talking
like I
about?
want like tangible sandwiches. I'm like, okay, guys, great,
Yeah.
they're a sponsor. Just do a read every week, and you're never
Catered.
getting
Paul
any.
would have
Do
to
we
eat
have a
lunch on the
catered
show
lunch,
again.
like,
We
once
eat
a
lunch.
week?
We
Yeah.
eat lunch in the middle of the thing. It's
Once
got to
a
be.
week catered
And
lunch.
lunch, of course, provided by Jersey Mike's today. What are we all having? I mean, this
Yeah.
is like
Number
real
13,
opportunities here.
Mike's Way.
put donuts on the pregame show.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we need to get
Guys.
involved with.
Yeah.
Get in my belly.
Everybody loves a
A
donut.
donut.
Ted's in San Diego. What's up, Ted?
Good morning or good afternoon. Just a few observations. I was a season ticket holder for the Patriots back in the early 70s when they opened up that dump of a stadium. And the one quick observation from my time before I moved to San Diego is I think that Chuck Fairbanks should have been elected to the Hall of Fame before Parcells. I know Paul has alluded over at least the last year or two about Fairbanks and the great job he did drafting people, but that team was probably the best team in the NFL back in the 77, 78, 79 era. It got screwed out of the playoff game against the Raiders, which of course is legendary, but I just feel like if it wasn't for that owner, that team could have been great for maybe a half a dozen years because they had drafted so well and they had such elite level players back at that point. Even though the quarterback was shaky at times, they still had a team on both offense and defense that was just outstanding.
I would agree with you, Ted. And just to let you know, this will make you feel a little bit better anyway. Chuck Fairbanks was talked about at our meeting that Fred and I just came from for the Hall of Fame nomination meeting extensively, and a lot of the stuff that you said was brought up. And I think that it's not a stretch to say if Robert Kraft had owned the team back then, they would have won Super Bowls in the 70s, because I do think their failures were directly tied back to Billy Sullivan. And this is not any disrespect to Billy Sullivan. I just think he just flat out did not have the finances to be operating at an NFL level. And I think he tried, but I just don't think he had enough. And Fairbanks absolutely is Parcells. I think there's so many parallels between the two. And I got a lot of people when I wrote the Bill Parcells story earlier this week. I got a lot of interaction from fans saying if Parcells is in, it's time to get Fairbanks in too, because they're very similar candidates.
Some people say, well, he walked away from the team. One of the people shared the story, and it's, if you were back then, it. He walked away from the team because he had a handshake deal with John Hanna that the owner made him back out.
He was basically the coach and GM. He was in charge of all personnel. The players negotiated with Chuck Fairbanks, and he had an agreement in place with John Hanna and Leon Gray. Handshake. This is done, all done. And the owner said, no. Well, now I've lost my credibility with my players. Like, you can't say no. And that's what ultimately led him to leave.
Yeah, I went back on when I wrote for my Pat's Propaganda blog. I wrote an article about Chuck Fairbanks 9 years ago, April 8th, 2016. But just some interesting stats I compiled were Fairbanks drafted 6 Patriots Hall of Famers. Parcells, at that point, had drafted 5. It might be a little more now because I'm sure just in 9 years, a couple of those guys went in. But Fairbanks was 6 seasons, 46 and 40. Parcells was 4, 32 and 32. Fairbanks was 0 and 2 in the playoffs. I know that there's some story behind that as well. And Parcells was 2 and 2. But the other part of Fairbanks for me is that he part of the Fairbanks Bull of 3-4 defense, which was Bill Belichick's basis for the defense that existed here forever.
Fairbanks brought that from Oklahoma.
You talk about, we get so consumed with Kyle Shanahan and the wide zone scheme and the schemes, and here's a guy that not only coached here, but his scheme went on to be a huge part of when the Patriots were really successful.
Yeah, and the last thing I would say is there was, what Ted finished there about how good those teams were in the 70s is Raymond Berry used to tell anybody who'd listen that the heart of the team that went to the Super Bowl in '85 was all Fairbanks guys. The Hannas, and all that crew.
Grogan.
Grogan, Hanna, Claiborne was still there. Stanley Morgan was still there. I mean, Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer.
Yep. Was that all like the 76 draft or 75?
76
I know one of their drafts
was the
crazy
year
good,
that they
right?
had 3 first-round picks because Chuck Fairbanks traded Jim Plunkett to San Francisco for 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, I think. It was a crazy trade. They ended up with, I forget the specifics, but I think they got Mike Haynes, Pete Brock, and Tim Fox in the first round one year.
Nailed it.
So all guys that we're talking about, all guys that are just, nothing in the eyes of young Evan Lazar.
Right.
The Steelers were too good, right, Evan?
London's in Great Barrington. What's up, London?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Wait, hold on. So, I think that the conversation around this Milton trade, you guys, I understand you guys work at the organization, but I think you're being way too tame about this. Let me bring you guys back to reality. You basically traded a potential a starter. He is a starter. The fact that Evan, I got beef with you right now because you.
That's
said
where you lost us, London. He's not a starter.
I'm getting out of control.
No, bro.
You just said that Joe Milton is a starter?
Before you jumped on my back pole, you traded a starter, right? He is an absolute starter because
why?
The guy
based on what?
Dallas, he's absolutely trying to bring up a controversy. Like, they didn't want to pay Dak. They didn't want to pay Dak, right, in the first place. And Dak got injured. When he came back from injury, he wasn't the same player. So they're absolutely trying to get rid of him. They're trying to get rid of that contract. So you traded a starter, right?
He didn't
for
come back
a
from injury.
a potential franchise quarterback for a special teams player at, okay, maybe.
Are you mixing him up with Aaron Rodgers?
Von Miller, but like I just want to bring you back to reality of
Why do you think he is a starter? What have you
I'm
seen
sorry
that makes
if
you
I don't
think he is
that he's
a starter?
and you think that that's reality.
Based off of what he came.
You saw one game and he's a starter in the NFL?
His traits are amazing. Like they're
traits, right? We all agree his traits are amazing, but he's not a starter.
You should start this guy over Drake.
Why was he drafted in the 6th round? He had the same traits last year.
Yeah, like 32 teams had a chance to draft him, and no one did.
Right, and when did they do that before? Tom Brady, right?
So he's Tom Brady?
So I'm saying NFL teams' evaluations can be off. So like
that's true.
Like,
okay, so can you do me a favor and give me another one over the span of the last 30 years? Because that's one. Brady, you're right. Brady was a 6th-round pick. Can you give me another 6th-round pick?
I just have a question before you guys hang up on me real quick. I have a question about the voluntary workout. Like, when is Rabel going to do when is that voluntary workout? Because obviously it's not voluntary.
Next week.
April 7th.
Voluntary. Yeah. Is that this month or next month?
This month.
Next week. Monday, baby.
Okay, and then one last thing. I just feel like Elliot Wolf, everything that he's done feels so beta to me. Like, I'm so done with this guy. He's the bane of the Patriots nation existence. Variable is a guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, the energy that Variable brings and his guys that he brought in, they've shown me real football moves, like aggressiveness. Everything that Elliott has done, I'm sorry, just feels so beta, and it's like from a position of weakness. I need this guy out of here, man.
Okay, thanks, London.
Think about what I said about Joe. When he turns into a franchise quarterback, I'm telling you, man.
Call back.
Remember this call.
I'm sure. No,
all right.
I absolutely will.
London calling.
And I'm not killing your take. I just don't like the characterization. Like, that's your opinion. He's absolutely a starting quarterback, is your take. That's not a fact. That's not a fact. He started one game, the last game of the year. Didn't even start it, but played in one game, the last game of the year, against an entirety of backup practice squatters. That does not make you a starter in this league. Dallas did not make that trade because they think they traded for a starter. They traded for a young quarterback who they think might be worth developing. And he might develop into a starter, and London will be right. But he's not that now.
But I like the energy, London.
No, I mean, he embodied what you said earlier in the show, Paul. That's where all the angst comes from when people are very, very upset about this trade. That's the point of view. So it's a good call.
I would also just go back to college with him a little bit, and I've said it multiple times. Michigan and Tennessee both thought like London about Joe Milton. They both thought that Joe Milton, he was a highly recruited player out of high school, went to Michigan. That's obviously a blue blood, like a big football program, flamed out in Michigan. Then Tennessee, bought in another SEC powerhouse in Tennessee. They bought into Joe Milton. He has a lot of traits. He has really high upside and a lot of traits. He has never put it all together consistently, and the whole ball of clay has never been shaped consistently in any capacity, to the point where he spent like 5 or 6 years in college football, just bouncing around trying to win starting jobs and stuff like that. So he's got a lot of talent, and I think that people see that, and they, just like London, they get attached to the talent. But the other thing really quickly with Elliot Wolf, this trade does not scream Elliot Wolf to me. At all.
Right.
There's a pattern developing.
Right.
I'll get to that later in the second
So
half.
Elliot Wolf.
Moves we don't like, Elliot Wolf. Moves we do like, Mike Vrabel's
Vrabel.
And I'm not saying that because you can like it or dislike it, whatever you want to feel, but Elliot Wolf's father, Ron Wolf, is a big believer in drafting quarterbacks, even if you had a quarterback. And they held on to all of their quarterbacks for as long as they possibly could. Like, moving on from a quarterback 1 year into his rookie contract is not the Packer way. Like, that's not what his father did. That's not like what his upbringing is in. I don't think that was a move motivated by Elliot Wolf. Just my take.
Matt Hasselbeck, Ty Detmer, Mark Brunell.
Yeah,
there were
Matt Flynn.
A lot of guys in
on.
the 90s with Ron Wolf that he held on to and got something from.
And all beat the Patriots at the time. No.
Well.
Let's go to Eldred, North Carolina. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, fellas. How y'all doing?
All right.
Ladies.
Hey, Eldred.
Hey.
I agree. I'm sorry.
Cool.
Evan, you're wrong.
About what?
In Tennessee, he did win the Liberty Bowl.
The Liberty Bowl. Oh.
Like Drake.
Did he win? Did he win the
Well,
Duke's
hell,
Mayo
Drake didn't
Bowl
go.
too?
Did Drake go?
Drake
Okay, Drake didn't win
Drake
a
was
bowl
in the
game.
Orange Bowl,
All right, then.
I believe, one of his years or one of those big
But
bowls.
did it win? Okay, forget all that.
I
But
don't know how that's relevant.
I got two
Say,
questions.
Eldred, can I just
The
interrupt you
Liberty
real
Bowl.
quick? Because
Yes, sir.
if this is your
Understand,
opinion, I
sir.
just want to get it straight. Do you think that they should have Milton be the quarterback right now and not May?
No,
Well, then why bring up what
but
May
what
did
I
in
think
college
is-
as opposed to what Milton did?
because Evan's shooting down what he did in Tennessee.
Well, he
And then,
was
like I
not
said
a
before,
he really wasn't a great starter at Michigan or Tennessee.
Correct.
I mean, no one suggested he didn't
They
win
went
any
8-4.
games.
And routinely got beat out by other people.
Check the year of his college record and put it against what you call, and he's won more.
Which year?
Like I said before, about a year before he got drafted,
Okay.
he went 20, I think 2 interceptions, 20
So again, you're comparing
and-
college
and the
stats.
yardage
If you
wise.
think Milton is better than May, then stand by it. If he had a better year than May and you think Milton should be the quarterback, say that. But you think May should be the
Okay, I
quarterback,
stand
so
by
I don't really know what we're arguing. Not that I have to defend Evan;
What
he
I'm
does a good
arguing
job
is,
on his own.
Well, but according to Baldy,
Yeah,
and what you call him,
Brian
he
Baldinger.
once suggested a while back. Yeah, Brian Baldinger said he's a better quarterback than the ones they got now. And if I was New England, I'd ask New England about him. But a fifth, I at least would try to hold out for a third. But Milton want to go to the Cowboys, and I think I understand that too because I got a bunch of Cowboy fans in my family. They can't stand Dak. They call Dak
I know
another
that.
Romo.
That's why I was a little bit
They call him
raising my
another
eyebrow at the Jerry Jones thing. But Eldred, and thanks for the call. If what you're saying is that they could have got a third and they ended up getting a compensatory fifth for him, then somebody should get fired. I doubt that was what was on the table, a third-round pick.
I mean, we're just rewriting Joe Milton's
Yeah.
college career, by the way, too. Like we're completely changing what happened in college, and he basically got told to leave Michigan because they gave the starting job to somebody else. Then he went to Tennessee. Hendon Hooker beat him out at Tennessee. Hendon Hooker was actually going to keep playing, then he got hurt. And that was the only reason why Joe Milton even got to play in the first place at Tennessee. And then, he had a decent year. Eldred's right about that.
Listen,
piece.
this
Got
always
drafted.
like be a Joe Milton fan. That's fine. Like he
I'm
could
a Joe Milton fan.
with proper coaching and structure and all that. Maybe that ball of clay does get formed into a good quarterback. I hope it does for his sake. But right now, in this point in time, like
He lost the Orange Bowl 28-27.
I don't know how
He stinks.
you can be that
ACC Player
upset,
of the
but
Year.
that's fine.
It's funny because I wouldn't have made the trade, and I said that. Like I said, I wouldn't have made the trade. I just the overrating of Joe Milton is where I think we are getting a little bit worked up
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah.
you're just rewriting history now that he's going to be a franchise quarterback or that he's
Well,
was this great
predicting the
college
future.
quarterback.
You're predicting the
Well,
future.
the definitive. They traded a starter for a pick swap from the 7th to the 5th.
Right.
That's all.
Like I just don't know that we can say that he's a starter.
Phil's in Coventry. Hey, Phil.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
You're going about it the wrong way, and I'm surprised Barth hasn't figured this out yet. The definitive answer to this big mystery is, and I don't mean to spread gossip, but I think somebody might have wanted his number. Maybe
19?
a certain rhymes with death,
Yeah.
6.
Oh. It's a number.
And he probably wanted the jersey number, so they had to get him going.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Don't want to give it
That
up.
was it. And the other thing is, Evan, have you started grinding any film on kickers yet?
On kickers,
Yeah, I know you love that.
Better Call Saul's. That's my take on the kickers.
All right. Thanks, Phil.
So,
Yeah.
so the answer is yes.
Ooh, that's a good kick. Ooh, that
Ooh,
kick.
Good,
Man.
ball, good foot to
I-
ball
explode
quickness.
off.
I usually leave the kickers to Barth. For some reason, he's decided that that's a niche that he wants to be
Right.
a part of.
That and long snappers.
So, like, at the very end, at, 1:58, I'll give him, all right, here's your 2 minutes on the kickers. Go for it.
I don't know if
Why,
this is
did
enough
Barth
time.
play
Yeah.
soccer or
Yeah.
something?
No, he did not. He
no?
just... I think
Wow.
he...
Hole in
he's
the
he's
market he's
evolving.
trying to
He
fill.
just needed some niches, you know, and the little
That's
things.
certainly a
so,
niche.
Should
yeah.
we walk over to the thing because we got to
Yeah,
get
probably
over there?
get going.
Is that all right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
I keep asking.
Fred,
It's all right.
Fred will allow.
All right.
You guys
Good
gonna be
time
okay?
for a break. These guys are going to go up and check out the offensive coaches. We'll
back
come
at
back.
1:30.
We'll
Lots
come
of stuff.
back when Josh McDaniels goes live at around 1 o'clock. We're going to go to that as well. But
Oh, good.
yeah. So
Whether
we'll
you're in
see you guys later. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
With FedEx One Rate, you can ship to your student for a simple, predictable flat rate. Send a box full of home-baked treats that say, "Your father and I miss you." Or send a box full of instant noodles that says, "Your father and I would like you to stop asking us for money." Either way, one rate fits all. FedEx One Rate. 2-day shipping, one flat rate. Starting at $14.50. Visit fedex.com/one-rate for details. Exclusions apply.
How do you feel about how the team has been spending its money, and how much of it is a reaction to maybe not spending it last year in free agency?
Well, we're just to correct something. There's never been a case in 31 years where people have come to us to spend and we've said no. Never one time. So we've always been willing to spend. When we do it, we want people to feel they've done their homework and feel confident that we're doing it and improving. I mean, most people would say, given coach's experience, that what we've done on defense and his knowledge of that area and the personnel, that we've improved greatly. And you know, I think that's so. I know I don't know, but I'm excited, and we've always had a strong defense, and I think any of us that are fans of the team know we want to try to strengthen the offense a little, you know, on the line and in the receiver area. Maybe a speed running back, but I'm talking as a fan. But I have confidence that this group is all on the same page, and the most important thing is everyone is putting team first. And that, in this business, you can't have little groupings who have their own ideas. And the fact that it's starting fresh and everyone expresses how they feel, it's been very exciting for me.
What would make this season a success? What would make the season a success for you?
For me,
Yeah.
to make the playoffs.
Robert, what was your reaction to the team's low marks in the NFLPA report card survey?
Well, you know, it was eye-opener for me, and then I put it in context that, you know, in 31 years, going through these last 2 years and the way things were and the culture was there, it really opened my eyes in a way, because we think we're bonded and we have things, but it just was not a good environment, and we want to do everything we can to make this, the feeling is one of the best places you can go. And I think we had that for quite a while in terms of winning, and people wanted to come here, and then the last couple of years changed it, and now it's management and ownership's job to do everything they can to create the culture that this is a place that people want to come to. And I really believe it's happening, and now we got to produce on the field, and people want to come to be in this environment, and we're trying to do the different things we can to make that happen.
Robert, you're going to be 84 in June. Some NFL owners, like Ralph Wilson, Dan Rooney, stepped aside or took a step back around the similar age. Have there been any discussions, any succession plans, things like that?
Are you telling me what? First of all, I think I'm 35, and you all will laugh when I say it, but I really, you know, in life, look, I was a little kid sitting on those benches dreaming about owning this team and bringing a winning culture here. I said after my family, this team and this foundation to combat hate and anti-Semitism, those are my passions. You know, as far as succession is there. I have my eldest son, Jonathan, has been part of every key decision I've made for the last 30-odd years, and is a full partner in everything. He stays out of the limelight, but we have a plan that is in place for all of our businesses. And I don't know, were you suggesting something that, you know, that's a bias. Sometimes with age you have experience, but let's see what happens this year. Let's see what happens over the next 2 to 3 years.
Robert, but before you go, last year you had the Tom Brady Hall of Fame thing. That was a big deal. We got a meeting coming up. We got to narrow down an amazing list of candidates for Patriots Hall of Fame. Any advice you might give with Vinatieri, Edelman, Mankins, others, that it's getting challenging?
Well, I don't know, people probably get mad at me for what I'm about to do, but I know Thursday we have a meeting of our Patriots Hall of Fame group, and I decided the end of last week to make a call to, sorry, thanks. Good things happen in the bushes. I called Bill Parcells, and I asked him if he would be kind enough to accept going into our Patriot Hall of Fame. He had been a finalist for 5 years, and going back to your question, while both of us are alive in our late 30s, you know, I thought it would be great, given what he's done for the team, if he would accept entry as a contributor into the Patriots Hall of Fame. And he accepted. I actually wanted to meet with him in person, but he was on his way to Saratoga, where he goes. So he's sort of, so I'm excited. We'll have him at our Patriots Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, and I'm sorry if I messed up the Thursday meeting of the people.
Can I squeeze one off on news-wise? Any updates on the Everett Stadium and where things stand and how it's coming?
Well, you know, I go back, I think back to when I bought the Patriots. I had gone out to St. Louis and met with James Orthwine and knew we had a stadium that was inadequate, and I called the then governor and said, I'm going to keep the team from moving to St. Louis, but I need your commitment that you're going to help me get a stadium in downtown Boston. And he said, I'm there, you're in. And of course, we all know what happened. And the political environment here is a little different. So we built the only stadium in America that's 100% private. And we're willing to do that for soccer.
Good. Good to see everybody.
familiar faces.
I guess it's just started. It's been a year since Las Vegas, come here, back here. What are your thoughts just being back? Hello world.
Yeah, super excited to be, working in football again. The process of getting acclimated with Mike and the staff is obviously an exciting one for me. Working with a bunch of guys that, you're getting familiar with them and learning things about them and our team and our players that we haven't had an opportunity to work with yet. But this is why we do what we do in coaching, to form these kind of relationships and hopefully build to something that we're all proud of once the season starts. So couldn't be more excited to be here and be back with this organization and working for Mike, and excited for Monday.
Josh, relative to your expectations before you had a chance to meet him and spend time with him, where has Drake May been relative to what you expected?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really do football with him yet, Tom, but that'll come. We'll have plenty of time here coming up next week. But I'm smitten by the young man in terms of just his personality. We've had an opportunity to spend some time that has nothing to do with football with one another, which I think has been great, very beneficial and productive to get to know him, who he is, what he's all about, what he cares about. Where he's coming from, his family, and Michael, wedding plans, all that stuff. We've kind of had an opportunity to talk about those kind of things. So, I think next week and beyond will be super fun for me to really get to know him from a football perspective and start teaching our terminology and language and seeing how he learns best and how he acclimates. But I couldn't be more excited about the young man that we have.
It's obviously very early in the process, but what's your overall feeling of confidence maybe in the state of the offensive line?
I always start each year with a fresh perspective. I wasn't here last year, and I know every player on our team is going to get a fresh start, and we're going to give everybody our best. And our job is to take the guys that we have on our offense and make them better. And I think that's a huge part of an assistant coach's job, is to develop the players that you have. I know our staff is excited to start doing that next week, and we'll get to know them more as we go. But I'm confident in the guys we have working right now offensively on our staff that are preparing to teach these guys the things we want to do. And then it's a process. We'll get to know them more as we go. But excited. I've met most of them, and looking forward to meeting the rest of them.
Will you be tweaking or revamping your offense in order to suit either like the quarterback you have and the personnel you have?
Yeah, definitely. That's the short answer. I think this is always a very popular question. We have a language, and every offensive system, defensive system has a language, so you have to decide the way you want to speak in terms of calling things and naming things, and whether you use numbers, protections, or you use words, or however you do what you do. So our language has been refined a little bit between last year with the time that I had, and then this spring with the coaches. I think that's really getting streamlined. It's been great to have their perspective on it. Being in the same type of language for my entire career has been good, and probably in some ways it's been, a little different than most coaches. And so these guys have done a tremendous job of helping us streamline it so that what's most important is that the players can digest whatever it is we want to do. But there's the language, and then there's the strategy part. And the language is how you talk. The strategy is all based about your players and what do we have, what are our strengths, how do we maximize the personnel that's on our team and on our offense, and that part is going to be different, like it is every year. Whether 07 was different than 12 was different than 17, everything was different than 2020. 2021 is going to be different than this year. So the strategy and what we end up doing eventually will be all about what's best for our players and how can we maximize the guys here.
How different is the language and everything for Drake, though, compared to what he had last year going to your system now?
It'll be different. I think that sometimes can get overblown because, one word is apple, another word's tomato, and one system it means one thing, and another system it means something else. And the guys, it's like Men in Black. You take the thing and just wipe the memory clean from, some of the things. But a lot of it is what you called this, now we call this, and it takes them a little bit of time to acclimate to that. Our staff, we've done the same thing, and we've changed some things, and I'm in the process of doing the same thing too. So what we used to call something, now we call something else because we've agreed that it's the best thing to do for the team. So we're all going to be in that same boat. Sure, we'll come up with a friendly fine system when we use terms that don't mean anything to us now that used to. But no, I don't expect there to be, there'll be a period of adjustment, but I don't think that'll be a big deal.
Can you go deeper into what you're going through, what you just mentioned there?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a way to talk for a number of years, and so when you have a great group of guys, I can't say enough about the offensive staff, and so when we come together, we've talked about every aspect of our offense, and so you look at it and you say, okay, does that make sense now? It might have made sense 10 years ago, 5 years ago. How can we streamline it a little bit to make perfect sense and make it even better? And even though we were doing that year to year, I think it's always great to have guys that have a different perspective because they're the ones that are going to teach it when they go into the individual position rooms. So it's important for them to feel confident in, the way they know it. It doesn't matter how I know it if they're in a different room. So we've really done a good job of coming together. They've given me great input. We've taken a lot of their ideas and thoughts and tried to make it one. And whenever the ball gets placed down on the field, it's going to be our offense and it's our terminology, and we'll all know it by then. But there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period for everybody.
Josh, in the year and a half you had away from football, how did you reflect on who you are as a coach, and how do you expect to evolve next now that you're back in the league?
Yeah, I think this was, it's something you don't ever think about doing, but I would say it was, it's a blessing to have the time to go back and look at, what you've been through in terms of the changes and different highs, lows. You look back at the past in terms of what we've done schematically and what the league is doing now strategically. I had a really good opportunity last year to watch football without a lot of deadlines, which was a new, interesting opportunity for me. And just see different things that were coming up throughout the course of the league. There's younger quarterbacks that are playing a little earlier than maybe they were 10, 12, 15 years ago. There's different things that people are using and doing schematically that are having a lot of success. There's some trends, like there always are, that are kind of, I'd say, in vogue now. Whether they stay in vogue for long, I don't know. But it was just a really healthy opportunity for me to go back and look at what I've done, what I've been a part of, and then what else is going on in the league right now that I need to get better at, that I need to start thinking about incorporating. And then this opportunity with Thomas and Todd and Ashton and Doug and Haas and Cougs and the guys we have here. I mean, it's been tremendous for me to have this opportunity to really pick their brains and see what they know, and glean as much information from them as I possibly can. And there was, I got an opportunity to go to a few different places last year. I won't say where those were, but there was some great coaches that were very welcoming. College, pro. I had an opportunity to see for the very first time in my life, somebody else run a meeting, somebody else run a practice, somebody else coach a quarterback, and those were invaluable opportunities for me. And I know I'll be a different person in terms of going forward because of the experiences that I've had an opportunity to see.
Josh, when you were here before, Josh, there were some players who couldn't get your system, who really couldn't pick it up. So I'm wondering, as you've evolved as a coach, and you're talking here this afternoon, how much of a growth as you have to be able to now place all players in a position to win and be successful?
Yeah, hopefully a good one. Again, I think it's a good process for our staff to be going through. I would argue we have a lot of guys that did get it pretty well, but I understand the point in the question, and that's always going to be the case. There might be some guys that are, have a little bit of harder time of getting something, and part of our responsibility is to take, those things we're learning about the players and try to figure out, okay, if he can learn this but not this, this, and this, then we got to try to do more of that, So a big part of that is the decision-making process that we need to go through once we start to get familiar with the players that we have.
We've heard Mike and Elliott talk about the coaches having some collaborative voices in the upcoming draft. Have you been able to give your input on what kind of players you'd like to see added on the offense, and were you able to do that in free agency as well?
Yeah, they've been great. I know all of us have had players we've evaluated both in free agency and in the draft, and our job is to give them our honest opinion and input on the evaluations that we see, and then they have the hard job figuring out how to get them on the team. So. Yeah, it's been great. We've had plenty of opportunity to look at players and, and compare and contrast, across position groups, what have you, and then, give them our input and then, let them go to work.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on the wide receiver room and just who you have in that room currently, and Stephon Diggs' addition as well.
Yeah, excited about all those guys. Everybody's got a clean slate. And to me, that's going to be an important message that I know Coach is going to give on Monday, and we're going to echo that. I've always, it's best to really refrain from making assessments on people until you really have them in your room, until you get to know them, until you coach them, until you put them on the field, and you're running drills and running things offensively, and then you have an opportunity to correct things, see if they can fix it, make the corrections, and get better. And so we have some young players that certainly have a lot of ability, and we have some guys that have some experience, some of which I have a little experience with, KB and Mac and some of those guys, and I'm starting to get to know some of these other guys that are trickling in here now, and super excited to work with all of them. I really am. And Steph is a unique individual, unique player, got a really good skill set, been a very productive player for a long time. Excited about his addition. My brother had an opportunity to coach him last year in Houston. So I have a little bit of insight into what he's like day to day, and I'm really excited about having him here.
Josh, the Patriots signed.
Last question, guys. Last question.
Patriots signed 3 guys that you're familiar with: Mac Hollins, Spillane, Epps. Can you sort of give us a little bit of insight on those guys?
Yeah. I was fortunate to be around all 3 of them. Good football players, super individuals, really high character, care a lot about the little things and the details. They set a high bar for the standard in their rooms and what they expect from themselves, and I think that then relates to their teammates and their respective sides of the ball. And I think all of them are about the right stuff, and they play hard. They do the things that it requires to be good, and I'm excited about having an opportunity to work with them again here.
Thank you, Josh.
Yep, thank you.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, back here in Patriots Unfiltered. That was Josh McDaniels live at the podium. Good to hear from him.
Yeah.
Anything of note that you thought?
Not a ton stood out. I mean, I did, there was a lot of questions, as we kind of assumed, about the offense and the changes, you
Yeah.
know, how much do you cater to, you know, to your personnel? And I mean, I think there's probably going to be some of that going on and some terminology changes and whatnot. So I think there's going to be a learning curve both for the players, learning his offense, and for him, sort of adapting his new offense to them.
Yeah, so like he said, you know, there's a difference between our language,
Right.
which is what we call things that everybody does, and then our strategy, which is how do we use our players to the best of their ability. And I'm glad he said that because, you know, everyone's just assuming that this is the Tom Brady offense because that's what Josh McDaniels ran when he was here. And I hope not, because right now Drake May can't do what Tom Brady did and the way he did it. You know, like there could be the structure, like certain things, vertical, using the slot receiver more and all that stuff. But Tom Brady, that was Tom Brady's offense, you know, by the time he was done. Yeah, I mean, I think Josh McDaniels said the same thing that any good coordinator would say is we evaluate who our players are, what their strengths are, and then we tailor our offense to those strengths.
I did like the line about Drake that he's smitten with the young man. I don't know why I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
He said, I missed that one.
I'm
I might have
smitten with the young man. It
That's
sounded
funny.
like so old-fashioned.
See, like from the 50s?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Good, it gives me the vapors. Yes, so good stuff from Josh McDaniels there. Good to hear from him. So people want to call in or email about that. It's 855-PATS-500 is the hotline. Podcast@patriots.com is the way to email us. And I will remind people, if you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter. Go to patriots.com/PU newsletter and sign up for that. Any teasers this week? Anything?
You guys got to answer my emails.
So
Yeah.
I just, you know,
I've been busy.
I'll give you a chance. I know
but
you're a busy
I
morning.
did during the break. I read the email for the first time, and I got to tell you, I'm going to have a hard time because I don't know if I have anything for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you
For
can
the
say
first question or the second
The
question?
second question.
Oh.
Okay.
You know, the Guy Fieri question.
Got it.
I don't know if I have one.
Hey, think long and hard.
Okay.
You got till the morning.
I'll do that, yep. Getting back to the emails, just a quick one. Caught my eye. Dan in Virginia and Michigan know that 2 emails in one show is frowned upon in this establishment, but a little mentioned fun factoid about Chuck Fairbanks, who absolutely should already be a member of the Patriots Hall of Fame, and it's criminal that he isn't, is that he brought Ernie Adams into the Patriots in pro football. Adams first
Ernie talked about that today?
Yep. Adams' first professional position was an offensive assistant in Fairbanks' Patriots staff. Dan also says something I was remiss in not mentioning Tuesday. Are you going to mention Patriots.com's nomination for a Webby for your coverage of the Tom Brady's Hall of Fame induction ceremony, and that we can vote for you? Help us help you. Thank you, Dan. I did not mention that Tuesday. I should have. So I don't know if people are familiar what the Webby Awards are, but they're kind of like the awards for the internet for stuff that happens on the web. And this year we put in the Tom Brady Hall of Fame induction show as one of the nominees in its category. I don't know which category it is, but right now I think we're in second or third place in voting.
Some heavy hitters we're going up
I
against,
think
too.
We're up against like
Wicked.
Wicked and NASA. So like
Help us out.
Yeah, so like Space and like one of the most popular movies last year. So it's going to be tough. But if you go to my X account, Fred_Kirsch, in my timeline, there's a direct link to finding the page to vote because it's kind of tough. There's a million categories.
Did we have something on Patriots.com for it, too?
Maybe.
I think
yeah.
we might have.
Yeah, but you can go to my X account, Fred_Kirsch, and follow me.
You and your friends that are,
I'm trying to
that
get
are
to-
well versed on the World Wide Web.
I'm trying to get over the 100,000 hump.
How much are you short?
About 90.
Oh.
Same.
I'm in straight, man.
Yeah.
You see what we did there?
That's an old joke I've been using for many years because
He caught me with
I've been
that.
at 10,000 for like 10
He
years.
caught me that I think he used something like, I just want to get to 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
And I was like, how many do you have? And he goes, 8.
That 10,000
Something like that.
That 10,000 threshold's a hard one.
Well, that's the big one because once you get it, it's just
Then you
like
start getting the
11K,
decimal points,
you know,
exactly.
as opposed to 8,811. You know,
Yeah.
it's just a huge
I'm stuck in
difference.
14,000 purgatory if you guys want to help me out, too.
But another proof that no one can take a joke. I mean, years ago I did that on my timeline. Hey, I'm trying to get over 100,000. and people, you're only at 10,000. What are you talking about?
Those
It's like,
people are
it's
boring.
a joke, you moron.
Boring people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to 40.
Okay.
And it's been a long I've been in the 30,000s for a long time. Now,
That's
Alex,
pretty good, though.
Alex,
That's really
you
respectable.
might say, well, Paul, have you tried actually tweeting once in a while?
There you go. Yeah, you just
Might up
retweet a lot.
That might up your followers, but no, there are. I think people can figure out for obvious reasons why I'm not necessarily a frequent tweeter.
Well, if
I mean,
you
we have
stirred
to
the
be
pot,
careful. We have to be careful
If you
with what
stirred
we
the
do.
pot on Twitter like you do on the show.
Right.
Yeah.
Travis in West Virginia, you've been ignoring my emails lately.
Oh, this brings
but here
up
goes.
a
Instead of
question I have.
ignoring my awesome emails, you should ignore who's boring phone calls for the betterment of the show. That could be anybody. I don't know who he's talking about. Evan mentioned the smashing of a computer in office space, but it was actually a printer, which is fundamental to the plot of the movie. Not sure how he got that wrong, nor
Well-
how none of you corrected him.
I'm not a big Office Space guy. I'm not gonna lie. I know the movie and I thought it was funny. It's but didn't change my life like it did anybody that's say 20, 15 years younger than me.
Yeah.
It seemed to like really impact your lives.
Okay. I've been getting a lot of inquiries, Fred, about people asking me how I can get you to read their emails. Someone particularly asked what the best time to email into the show is.
During the show.
To increase the likelihood.
During the show.
Yeah, unless it's like, tremendous. It has to be like a tremendous point that we hadn't thought of off, off show hours. Otherwise, during the show.
And by the
There you
way,
go.
so a lot of people try to put a headline in that will make me read it.
That's because it works for Felger all the time.
Right. It's not the headline. It's your first two lines because I get a preview in my email column. So it's the first two lines that will more likely catch my eye than your headline because I know a lot of you try to trick me with your headlines. So it's going to be pithy. If you have a really long email, I'm not going to read it because I don't want to bore people. It's going to be like a paragraph of a concise, good idea or making fun of somebody. I like that.
There you go. Just
Yeah.
make fun of us. You
Yeah.
get it read.
Yeah, and we did the Webby Award. I think we all thought it was already there, and it is. It's on Patriots.com. You can vote there,
Yeah.
and I think you have to do
Yeah.
so by April 17th.
I think so. That's the deadline. So it would be cool if we won. But like I said, we're against some heavy hitters there. Let's go back to the hotline, 855-PATS-500. Brent's in Reno. What's up, Brent? Brent is lost his
He's in
poker
Reno.
game.
He's at the
Yeah.
slots.
Let's go to Nelson in L.A. Nelson, don't swear.
Don't
What's
swear.
up? Nelson gone. Nelson in L.A.
Well, he can't swear if he's not
I
on
think
the
they
line.
got scared away by that email about who boring phone calls. They all think it's about them. Cam in East Providence. What's up, Cam? Cam.
You gotta know
Uh-oh.
when to
Are we having
hold
trouble
them.
with the phones?
Gotta push away.
Okay.
Gotta push away from the phones.
We'll try to reset that. We'll go back to
Call back.
emails. Let's see. Tony says, how could no one ask Josh McDaniels his thoughts on Joe Milton being dealt? Do you agree with that? Do you think that was an important question?
I don't know. I'm not gonna rate the importance, but yes,
Well,
that's
it
a
should have
question.
been
That's a
asked.
question that should have been asked.
Yeah, it just happened, right?
As
Did we
opposed
miss
to,
it,
what did
maybe?
you learn when
Yeah.
you weren't in coach?
I mean, we only got 3 questions that asked the same thing in different words about what did you learn?
Right. And yeah, someone should have asked about Joe.
Paul
Milton.
wasn't
Even
there.
if it's just a throwaway question, you got to get it on record.
Well, I
right?
would have gone to the side. Josh.
Yeah.
Paul.
What's up with Milton? Sam in St. Catharines, not outraged like some of the others at the trade return or value of Milton. It just makes me question drafting him in the first place. That was kind of Paul's thing. In terms of things ball knowers spew, drafting a quarterback every year is good business, unquote, comes in right behind build through the trenches. But was this good business or punting on a pick for a year? It's only a 19-pick difference from where he was drafted to what we got for him. Plus, we had to give up a 7th, and drafting him caused some noise for Drake, along with the first pick this year, although I don't fully put that win on Joe Milton solely. How was this good for business? What was the point? Well, I think good email.
Yeah, no, it's
raises some good
relevant.
points.
Relevant
which
email.
Also adds to the speculation that there had to be more than just getting a low 5th-round pick. There had to be some pressure that, hey, where do I stand? I want to move on. I want a chance to play in this league. please get rid of me. So I think that could have had something to do with it. But, Joe, Paul, you were on it when we first drafted. It's like, why are we drafting this guy?
Well, it doesn't mean that I was right. That was my feeling. I just felt, because I do believe in that sort of, I know it's a cliche of drafting quarterbacks every year is good business. I don't think drafting two is necessarily great business. I know Washington did that years ago with RG3 and Kirk Cousins, and it worked because RG3 was great. Then he got hurt, and Cousins played, and he proved to be certainly a worthy fill-in, worthy starter in the league. Yeah, that worked out. I don't think that necessarily is something you have to do. I would have rather have taken a guy there that maybe could represent another offensive lineman or something right now as depth.
That
in the
example
sixth
also
round.
kind of feels like the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I don't know of a lot of teams that make a habit of taking two quarterbacks in a year when they need one. It's one thing to take a quarterback because you just thought, well, the value was too high and he was available. What else were we going to take? I like the idea of taking quarterbacks and trying to develop them. I think this one had something to do with off-field.
But if you're going to take
say.
one and try to develop them, you got to keep them for more than 1 year. So that's why there was something else going on here.
Yeah, and that's why I think you're right. I think you're onto something, Freddie.
Luke in Atlanta, can you please read the definition of the endowment effect? The endowment effect is a cognitive bias where people assign a higher value to items they own compared to items they don't, leading to reluctance to trade or sell them. Everyone freaking out about the Milton trade is falling victim to this, and it happens all the time. It's one of those all the period. You like that?
No,
you don't like that?
Annoys me.
Nobody in the league cares about Joe effing Milton. There is a 99.999% chance that this trade is utterly meaningless. It is the least important news of this entire offseason. Wow, a lot of caps there, too.
People feel very, very strongly either way.
They have a lot of Milton takes, strong Milton takes.
Yeah, well, it's good for radio, I guess. Speaking Fresno says, I liked London's Fire. That was an earlier caller.
I liked London's Fire, too. I just disagree with him. That's all.
But his listening skills rivaled Mark in the Bays. If we're loving players based solely upon their traits in our wildest imaginations, we should be lamenting the loss of N'Keal Harry's size, Tyquan Thornton's speed, Chad Jackson's catch radius, Chris Singleton's strength, and Mac Jones's brain. I'm joking because Milton isn't necessarily a bust. He might end up being a competent backup journeyman somewhere. Or maybe he'll be more than he's shown, but some people are confusing entertaining traits with overall ability. People used to lament how boring it was to watch Tom Brady. I'll take that kind of boring any day. Who said Brady was boring?
A lot of people just said he didn't have those physical skills that wowed you.
Oh.
Right?
System quarterback.
Well, that was early in his career, but people, Aaron Rodgers, just like, the way he throws the ball and, and Lamar Jackson, the way he runs around. Brady didn't do any of those things, but he did them all better than everybody else. The whole idea of being a quarterback. So I know what Speed's talking about.
Sean in Vancouver, to preface this email, I should say that I am a Joe Milton fan. 5 years from now, I'll probably remember that Joe Milton was drafted by the Patriots. Much less likely, if he somehow leads the Cowboys to the Super Bowl, I'll consider this trade to be a huge theft. Silver lining, Milton rather be in Dallas because he is guessing that Drake May will be the Patriots starting quarterback for the next 10 years, while he is more confident that he'll start for the Cowboys in less than 5.
Yeah, boy, Christian Campbell just hit another home run. Kid
Whoa,
looks good, Freddie. Kid looks good.
I like what I see from
this kid. If I was
kid.
his agent, I would be looking for a new job. I can't believe he signed that contract. 8 years, $60 million. I think he's going to be underpaid by like June.
Well, they'll be asking for a new one.
Yeah, good luck with that. You just signed an 8-year contract.
Valerian writes in, the Joe Milton trade is fine in my mind. If we're going to rebuild this team into a perennial contender, we're going to need later round picks that work out. We drafted him in the 6th round, turned him and a 7th round pick into a 5th rounder. The team gets another shot.
We moved up 19 spots. I just want that stated.
The team gets another shot in this draft to look for a player that could be more impactful in the near future than Milton. Milton was always a great what if, but if we have our quarterback of the future in May and Josh Dobbs is a fine backup, pick up another 6th round quarterback or an undrafted rookie and move on. Okay, I think that's what they did.
Yeah, I agree. I would have taken a positional player last year with that pick because I think that would have had a chance in the spot that they were last year. The more chances that you had to add players that could help, I would have taken.
Yep. Let me see. I want to move on from the Milton subject. I'm getting bored.
Yeah, and I mean, there is really not much else to say about Milton. I think we all kind of are a little bit surprised that they moved on so quickly.
Yep.
Like, unless they were going to get blown away in a trade package, and they didn't. But, you know, it is what it is. I think Fred's right. I think it's probably as much to do with something away from the field than we know.
Yep. Let's see. Will Campbell stuff. Brandon, if Will Campbell was well above the 33-inch threshold for tackle arm length, where would he have ranked among last year's tackles? And if we draft Campbell as a tackle, what's the plan to make sure he's a better fit there versus a guard? Do they just line him up against the guy with the longest arms and say good luck? What goes into evaluating him once they have the player?
I think they'll just evaluate the entirety of the package and see if he, how he handles pass rushers. I mean, it's not necessarily long-armed pass rushers. It's,
right.
Does he have the ability to keep guys wide and as a tackle?
There's some rookies that they get on the team and you don't really see them in when we get to see all the practices go up against the first number ones.
Mm-hmm.
Once in a while they put him in. I think if they were to take Campbell, I think early on, once they get into into training camp, we're going to see him go up against, whoever.
Yeah.
Harvey Lang or whoever it is.
Harvey Lang?
Who's the guy they got in free agency?
Harold Landry?
Harold Landry, yeah.
Like, wow. I speak Fred, but sometimes you make it tough.
Harold Landry. Wow. Who's Harvey Lang? There was a Harvey Lang, right?
I have no idea.
Sounds like a character from like a show.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, but it's good.
Let's see. Oh, I like this email. Matt writes in, Fred is right, he said.
Yes, he is.
One of the few headlines I'll read. After hearing Fred's proposed new measurement system for O-line arm length, I discovered that this measurement already exists in the world of biomechanics and advanced analytics. What Fred is describing, and I did this on Tuesday, what Fred is describing is the anterior forward plane reach. Basically, Campbell has such flexibility and mobility in his upper body that is more than makes up for his static arm length. A YouTuber named Pat Stats posted an in-depth look at Campbell from a biomechanic perspective. The talk about interior forward plane reach starts 38 minutes into this video. He concludes...
Can we watch the video?
No.
It's only 38 minutes
I
in.
know. He concludes that Campbell's AFPR is elite and longer than other prospects and players with arms over 34 inches. Fred is such a next-level thinker that he was able to independently conjure up this important metric that teams look at with proprietary analytics.
I agree.
After
Freddie
watching
is ahead
Pat
of the
Stats'
curve.
video, I'm convinced Campbell should be the pick at 4. So I'm going to save that email.
So do you think they're going to pick Campbell at 4?
If Hunter and Carter are gone, yes. And
Well,
I
you
would,
Alex,
and I agree
think
with
so?
it.
I think so too, but
I think they're telling
don't
too many
know.
people that they like Campbell.
Oh yeah, that's
I'm
sometimes
starting to think,
a
I'm
red
starting
flag.
to think that they're not going to take him.
That's sometimes a red flag.
I don't have anything concrete to base that on. I'm just feel like at the combine and then at the owners meetings last week, it just seemed like, I don't see any other way you can evaluate him. He played. I'm starting to think that maybe.
So are you jumping on Deuce's train?
What's your chain?
I don't
running
know.
back
I have a train.
Ashton Genty.
Ashton Genty.
Oh yeah.
Before we get
No,
into
not really.
where these guys have been and what they saw and heard, I just want you guys to know that my idea for measuring offensive line arm length is already part of advanced analytics, and I thought of it on my own.
Okay.
So there you go.
It's not exactly the same as what you said, but I'm going to give you credit anyway.
I do not know.
He talked about forward lean
I know,
and flexibility and stuff. You're talking about blocking guys with the heel of your,
Well,
like
the
your
length,
palm,
yeah, but-
which makes no
but
sense.
how to do it,
Which makes no
It's like the
sense.
long fingers thing.
We had a
too, is
little
that-
arm length talk where we just were, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah,
So you got a little Dougie Marone?
Yeah.
Deuce and Evan are back, and we got to listen to Josh McDaniels. We didn't get to talk to all the offensive coaches like you did. But quick question on McDaniels. Why didn't anyone ask about the trade for Joe Milton?
Yeah, I was surprised. I said before I thought that they would. Yeah.
I don't know.
That wasn't talked about among your friends afterwards?
No.
I mean, there's 16 people from Clintus there. Not one person could ask about Joe Milton. Not that I care. I really don't care.
I do think it's a relevant question.
Yeah,
for sure.
No, I think, this was our first time talking to him since he's back, and I think there was just bigger picture questions.
How about one last question related to what he's did last year in his time off?
Sure, but I think my point is that there's more important, bigger picture questions about Drake May and the offense and the people that are actually going to be here than talking about
I think
it.
the most important thing is I didn't know there were so many nicknames among the coaches already.
Oh yeah, right.
Apparently.
I had to look because I'm like, I met these guys. I'm like, who are all these guys? Like, I need a refresher course on what their names are.
Spanky and
I was out after like the fourth one.
Buckwheat.
I was out after like the
I didn't
fourth
hear
one.
Spanky.
Yeah, it's before your time.
Yeah.
Just joking. Ball knower.
It's comedy.
He doesn't.
It's a show.
He
It's
doesn't
got to be
do jokes.
entertaining.
Just wanted to be
All right.
clear.
He just does
I just
ball.
wanted to be
So
clear.
let's get serious. What did you glean from leaving our show?
Oh, I mean,
got
you guys
permission.
probably discussed Josh. I would just say my one thought on Josh is just seems like chill Josh. I just felt more relaxed vibe about him. Maybe it's the year
The
off.
stress hasn't set in
Maybe
yet.
it's the off season. Maybe the stress just hasn't set in yet. But to me, he sounded a little bit more relaxed, a little bit calmer, in a good place.
By
and
now, he knows the answers to the test.
he does.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah. My favorite answer from him was about, as you could imagine, the language versus the strategy, and that's something that we've talked about. I feel like on the show a lot, and they speak a different language, but the strategy is going to be adapted to the players, is what he said. So I think anybody that thinks that he's just going to put Drake May right into the Tom Brady offense and expect him to operate it like he's Tom Brady.
You were listening to the show. 'Cause that's exactly what I said.
Yeah, they were going to have a little bit of difference there. I talked a little bit to Ashton Grant, the quarterback's coach now, be Drake May's coach, and he said that they're going to keep the footwork the same, which I was happy to hear about. But there is going to be more on Drake's plate at the line of scrimmage. They are going to put, he's going to have the keys to the Ferrari, and it's going to be up to him to drive the car. So it won't be the center, making the calls. It sounds like it's going to be the quarterback.
Oh,
And
now that's Tom Brady.
Yep, there's going to be quite a bit on his plate, which some quarterbacks love. The kind of the chess match and all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't think it's going to be 2 feet into the deep end right away. I'm sure that they'll kind of ease him into that, but he did mention they'll see how it goes. In the spring and the summer, if it's too much, then they'll obviously pull back. But it does sound like Josh McDaniels is really close to the vest, as you can imagine, about the actual scheme tweaks that they're going to make. But it does sound like they're going to adapt some things.
Yeah.
Did you get to talk to Doug Marrone?
That was the only guy I didn't get in. It's a little bit of a rapid fire. I know Evan got into it. Well, why don't you give that?
That was my first stop. So he got right off the bat, got asked about arm length and why 32 and 5/8 and 33 inches is such a big difference. And he gave the boilerplate answer that Vrabel's given and even Elliott Wolf has given in the past, which it's all about how you play, right? If you play to the max of your length, if you use what you have to the best of your ability, then he made a point to say that he doesn't really have a type at tackle. If it's however you win, whether you're a big guy, small guy, athletic guy, powerful guy, whatever. He said that he's played with all different types of left tackles, and different types of guys have been successful in different ways. So he doesn't have an exact archetype of like, this is the 5 things that I need my left tackle to be able to do. So he seemed pretty open to all avenues about addressing personnel.
Yeah, I went first with Ashton Grant, who is a local kid, very happy to be back in the area. He said he thinks this is his wife's favorite person right now because her family and his family both live in Connecticut, so they've moved back to the area, and he's got some help. But he's been working a lot with Josh. Said every day at like 12:30 they're going to Dunkin' Donuts, and he's picking his brain. Seems very excited. Had some experience with Vrabel in Cleveland that he talked about that was interesting, the kind of relationship that they built there. I popped over to Todd Downing real quick, who just echoed what McDaniels said about clean slates, that he had done a lot of work on Polk and Baker coming out, and that he has a lot of respect for their talent and their skills and trying to get them to a place where they can bring that out. Hopped in on Tony Dews, running backs coach. Seems like a young Ivan Fierce to me, one of those deep voice, kind of has a presence about him. Was asked a little bit about Ramondre, spoke highly of him, of course. And then lastly, I hopped in with Thomas Brown, where Evan was as well. And he was What was he talking about?
Yeah, so we actually, I enjoyed talking to Thomas Brown. I mean, that's a guy that you can tell. I mean, he was the interim coach in Chicago. He's been an offensive coordinator. He definitely thinks like an offensive coordinator. You know, his technical title is pass game coordinator and tight ends coach, but you can tell that he kind of thinks about the scheme and the big picture stuff as much as the minutia. And we just talked a little bit about, you know, what does that mean to be the pass game coordinator? I think was the number one question he got. He said he got it 3 times, so I felt a little bad about that. But, you know, he basically said that his job is to sort of be a sounding board between, you know, everybody, the players, other coaches, McDaniels, to make sure that the offense is as good and as streamlined and making as much sense as it possibly can, language-wise. And then he also said that, you know, he'll have some input schematically on play design and things like that, and, you know, pulling from his experiences in the past.
Yeah, the other thing that was interesting, just being selective, Thomas Brown talking about this opportunity and really being calculating about what opportunities he wanted to explore. Just said he got a random text from Mike Vrabel this offseason, and that's how the process all started. But yeah, it's good staff, a good start off. Unfortunately I didn't get to Marone.
A lot of media.
Yeah, a lot of media.
Andy Hard.
A lot of media.
Andy Hard, as you can see on our TV here, the Red Sox are on. That's why I asked.
Oh,
I said,
okay.
Andy Hard as I live and breathe.
Yeah, McDaniels was peppered, I would say, not like in a negative way, but like there was just, it was kind of tough to get a question in. You know, there was a lot of people trying to ask questions to him, and
still we just had the same one over and over.
Yeah. Man. But yeah, it was. It always puts me in a tough spot. But yeah, it was good. It was good to hear everybody.
Your boy hit a homer in the first inning. You hear that?
Which one?
Breggy.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I knew that would put a smile. See, I knew that.
He's beaming.
I knew that would put a smile on my voice.
It's part of the tribe, of course. Yeah.
Every night when we watch, when my wife
Campbell hit
Bregman
another
gets
one.
up, I'm like, all that money. But he finally hit one, so good. Okay.
I watched the Sox last night. How about the pitcher there? Did pretty good. He had a nice game.
Oh, he had a great game.
Oh yeah, this is like
He
is
spun
this
a
like
dandy.
Malik Nabbers again.
He spun a
Deuce,
dandy.
You know, like
yeah.
Garrett
Mike
Crochet's
realized
pretty
Garrett
good.
Crochet's good at baseball.
Yeah.
That's his name.
Yeah.
He good.
Yep. So, all right, fun with the offensive coaches.
Yeah, we'll have the. Unfortunately, Terrell Williams is out of town, so we will not have the defensive coordinator tomorrow. They're going to
That makes me feel better.
swap in Jeremy Springer, and we'll still meet with the defensive coaches tomorrow. So
Okay, it makes me feel
I know we
better
don't
for
cover it
missing
with video. There'll probably be some kind of video up, but we'll do a written up of those defensive coaches as well.
Oh, last thing, Thomas Brown was asked about game day roles and if they've gone over, you know, where people are going to be and things like that. And somebody asked him if who was going to call plays, and he was like, "Josh is going to call the plays." And so
We're still doing this?
Yeah.
That was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. He was like, "I think Josh is going to handle that."
Remember the year during practice we trying to it was Patricia year. We were
Patricia,
trying to
yeah.
figure out who's got the mic, who's talking. Who's,
It does sound like they have.
It looks like Patricia. No, wait, Joe Judge has got a microphone too. Oh God.
Talk to Thomas Brown maybe about sitting up in the booth as eyes in the sky and to be in McDaniels' ear from the booth. So.
Okay, Ryan in Idaho writes in.
Oh, Idaho.
Listening on Tuesday, I experienced a little deja vu with Fred saying that at bare minimum, Will Campbell will be a really good guard if he doesn't pan out a tackle. Freddie, you said this before. Remember when the Patriots drafted Isaiah Wynn? You said his floor would be a Pro Bowl guard in the NFL? Wynn turned out to be an oft-injured and underwhelming offensive lineman, not even remotely worthy of a first-round pick, and they took him 23rd, not 4th. I did say that.
Isaiah Wynn.
Yeah.
That might have come
I
up
made up
yesterday.
that
Me and
too.
Paul were
You did?
talking. Me and Paul talking yesterday.
That may or may not come up when I was ripping you off there.
The Isaiah Wynn thing, though, like Isaiah Wynn was small for an NFL offensive lineman.
It's like 6'2",
right? Like by NFL standard, guard, center, tackle, anywhere.
Yeah, and I'm going to be fair too and say there's a big difference between the 20s, the mid 20s, where he got picked in the 4th overall pick.
Another hit by
Like, that's
Devers.
That's a different.
Oh, no, that's Casas.
That's Casas.
Well, he finally got a hit.
They
too.
both have 2 now.
Right.
That's the big difference. Is like Campbell is considered to be an elite prospect in this particular draft.
Yeah.
And Wynn really wasn't. Now they both. I mean, I think I
Very
could make
athletic.
it. I
Both
could
of
make
them are
this
kinda
the
athletic
argument
guys.
and just say he played at a high level in the SEC, which is the be all end all according to everybody now. But I don't think that I don't think Wynn was thought of as highly as Campbell is right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, Campbell, it's just his arms. Everything else stacks up,
Yeah,
right?
6'6", 320.
Ryan also says, I understand Campbell is a much better prospect than Wynn, and I would be shocked if he does not have a better NFL career. But I will personally be incredibly disappointed if a premium pick is used on a player who ends up being a really good guard with a guy like Janty available for the Patriots, who Fred also gushed about on Tuesday.
What?
Fred, you said the team who does take Janty will get an awesome player. Let's be that team. Plus, imagine Mike swooning over Janty's
Mike, what did you think
shirtless
of
workout.
This is hilarious.
Janty's workout shirtless?
I mean, I was just going to bring that up, Paul.
One with
Actually, I'm
Kendrick?
glad you brought it up because it wasn't quite Derrick Henry, where it was just a mountain of a man. But that guy, what they
You
used to
mean the
call that old
5'8"
Doug? What was that
running
old
back?
running back from Tampa, the muscle hamster? I mean, Genty is he's like a fire hydrant
He's chiseled.
of muscle, and it's impressive to see. So yes, I'm glad I wrote that piece before I saw him
Two
do
Cs.
that workout, so no one tried to accuse me, like you're kind of insinuating now, that it was all based on how he looked with his shirt off.
yeah. Mike's all in.
No, he is thick.
He's also 5'8".
Connor reminds us, Paul, that Harvey Lange was the undrafted linebacker in
Oh.
17 who was involved in the car accident.
Yeah,
It's Harvey Longy.
Lange, close
But
enough.
yes,
Yeah.
that must be who Fred was thinking about. That's a good call, E. Miller.
As I called Harold Landry, Harvey Lange.
He goes,
Oh,
he goes, we have, no, you
That's
said,
a good
no,
one.
no, no,
Harvey
no.
Lang.
Yeah.
You said Harvey Lang.
And Harvey Lang is like a random actor from some
Harvey
film
Lang.
with Lucille Ball.
And
Oh, wow.
somehow I
I
got
didn't even
from
think it was
Harvey
Alex with a
Lang,
deep dive
Harold
into
No, I
Lang.
had to
Jaws.
Google it.
You haven't seen Jaws and you know who Lucille Ball is? This is
I loved I Love
So,
Lucy.
but that's
I
a
used to
good
watch it
call
at
by
my
the
grandma's.
emailer because that's absolutely who Fred was thinking. He had Harvey Longy in his mind, and that's why he said
got Longy on
Harvey
my mind.
Lang.
got my mind on my Longy.
Ted in
my
Las
Longy on my
Vegas says Bill is Parcells' nickname. What is Bill Parcells' actual first name?
Dwayne.
That's correct.
Dwayne Charles Parcells.
Yeah. He's not even. There's not even a
Wow.
William there.
mind. Did anyone ever ask him how you got the bill?
No.
Yeah. Can ask him at the Hall of Fame.
I do know how he actually got the tuna one on it, but I can't say it on air.
He looks like a tuna. doesn't
Sorry,
he? I just thought
Charlie.
he looked like a tuna. The silver hair.
Sun-kissed.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, he didn't have silver hair when they called him Tuna.
No.
When they first called him Tuna.
Right.
I guess it
He
doesn't
was
matter,
young.
right? Tunas are probably like blue, right?
Yeah, they're shiny.
I can only imagine what Evan thinks of this. He doesn't even like the trivia
We were
questions.
talking about colors of tuna. Like,
No,
what is
happened?
going on?
Evans tune.
We were
you
just
see-
talking
you see how
about
he
what we
tunes
talking
out
about.
when
Will
we talk about
Campbell's
anything other
flexibility.
than
Just
like
watching the
22.
Red Sox
Right.
commercials.
He goes
It's
into
not even
sleep.
the
He goes
game.
into Evan's sleep mode.
Right.
Like,
Right.
it's like someone says,
robot
like,
sleep mode, and then you mention all 22. He's like,
booting up.
Look at him. Look at him. He can't even argue. It's like, it's true. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, do tuna on your own time. Like, I don't even like tuna.
I was gonna say there's no way Evan eats tuna.
You don't eat tuna?
Good tuna.
I like a good tuna melt, but like I'm not gonna eat like a seared piece of tuna.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, have you ever had it?
That's
yeah,
better.
It's not
I
my
have.
thing.
You don't know
it's
from
very
tuna.
good.
If you got a good sauce, to
Yeah.
dip
It's
it
like
in.
swordfish.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
You like
excellent.
swordfish?
Spicy
No.
tuna bowl.
I'm not a huge seafood guy, but Fred and Alex are right. You get a good swordfish
Well,
or
they're
a
the
good
least.
piece of tuna.
They're the least fishy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
It's
Right.
almost like you're eating.
closest
It's
thing to
almost like
steak.
you can
Yeah.
fake yourself out into thinking you're eating meat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, tuna's my go-to for sushi anytime. Like, that's the
Yeah.
base spicy
That's
tuna
true. I
forever.
will eat a nice spicy tuna roll.
Spicy tuna.
Yeah.
Greg from
It's
LA.
nice when we can all just come together.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
Friends.
No arguing.
Loving
Who
each
knew
other.
sushi was the common bond?
I do love sushi. So there you go.
I know.
That's something football.
Greg
not
says,
football.
so you guys were talking about the Patriots Hall of Fame and coaches getting in a few days ago. I was wondering if anyone thinks Josh McDaniels should be in there someday. I'm not sure if I'd put him in myself, and I doubt Fred would either, but he's had a pretty successful Patriots career, both on and off, for about 20 years now, thanks for the many years of content.
I mean, I didn't quite think that while I was watching. I was just feeling I'm kind of nostalgic. I like having Josh back. That nostalgia of having someone familiar back in, I'm a sucker for it, no question. But I did think this is the first time he's been an offensive coordinator under a coach, not Bill Belichick, right?
So let's say right now,
No, the Rams.
my
That's why
answer's
the
no.
Rams briefly, right, that
see how
one
stint
season.
3 goes.
But if he in this new,
This is the chance, right? This is the chance
If
to
they
prove himself.
have like
yeah.
playoff runs and the offense is great, and he retires, I might consider that.
Yeah.
You know.
I was wondering,
Probably
you
need
know,
a Super Bowl though. Yeah.
kind of in like a similar category as Dante Scarnecchia. Like, would Ernie Adams get any,
He should.
He should.
Yeah.
you know, like consideration, like as a contributor, not to be on the ballot, but
Well, that was my first thought when we were initially hearing that the Parcells thing was going to happen. It was like, who do you think it is? And Ernie was the first one off the top
Yeah.
of my head as
Yeah.
a contributor.
yeah,
Which would have been weird to put him in before Bill, I think. But
Yeah, that's probably fair. Yeah.
It's good to see Ernie today.
Oh yeah, how is he
I'll be
doing?
there.
You look good, spry.
He looked the same as he always
Same as
does.
he always
Don't you
does.
think,
Have his
Freddie?
little cap.
Didn't change at all.
It was his
Sweaters.
newspaper.
Didn't change at all.
No.
I didn't see the newspaper.
No New York Times.
He did come in with his umbrella though. It was really wet out there.
Underrated part of the schedule release last year was like Ernie had a very small part, but it was kind of like throughout the day he had random pieces, and while he wasn't being in the shoot, he just sat in Fred's office and read the newspaper the whole day.
Well, it was
cover
so
to
funny
cover
because
4
I felt
times.
bad for him because
I
there was so
know.
much downtime.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at the table with him and like I'm trying to think of something to.
Oh, man.
And he's reading the newspaper, and I'm like, "Well, stock market had a good day," and he's like, "Mm-hmm." And it's like, like a husband talking to the wife, like, like
That was the exact.
And he looks back down at the paper.
That was the exact response I got when I told him I kept track of Bill's hoodies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
I went over like a lead balloon. Like, all right, never mind. I thought you might. You're a stats guy, but
I know what you do. I've heard about you. Donovan writes in, Vrabel has talked up the value of some ill-liked players among Patriots fans, guys like Wallace, Booty, Strange, for example. Which players from the 22-24 drafts do you think could surprise us under a hypothetical better coaching situation? So who can get better than what they're currently perceived at because of coaching?
I'd hope Jalen Polk. I would hope Jalen Polk. I'm not ready to say yes, Jalen Polk, but
Yeah, I mean, otherwise it's guys that have been injured, like Strange, Wallace.
Yeah.
Like they haven't been able to play. They've been hurt a lot.
I would say Keon White. Like I feel
good
like
one.
Keon White with Vrabel and Terrell Williams.
Yeah.
Maybe those two guys can. Vrabel's talked about it. Getting his technique a little bit better and getting him a little bit more developed. I feel like maybe there's another more consistent level. I don't know if there's another level
That's
in terms
why
of impact.
with you guys,
but-
I threw him out as a starter, and I was surprised that we just sort of. Because I don't think of Chason as a starting defensive lineman. I think of him more of as a sub rusher. I think there's going to be an opportunity for Keon White to do exactly what Evan said.
4-3 end.
I agree with what you're saying. I guess the way I approached it was the thing where we stick the veteran, experienced guy who knows what he's doing when we go out on the depth chart on OTAs and we're getting started. But I do agree with you that he should have every opportunity to win that job over Chason. I just don't think he'll start off as the guy as the defensive end.
Right, but like Chason coming on the field on third down
Yeah,
to
probably
rush off
where
the
it's
edge,
headed. Probably where
and
it's
then
headed.
Keon bumping inside at that point because what he does best is rushing on the guards. Like he'll be the first one to
100%.
tell you that. He's actually really good at it from like just a statistical perspective, but the edge rushing stuff is just raw. He blows by the quarterback. He's not good against the run out there. There's just a lot of work to be done.
Travis in Baltimore, I re-listened to the post-game show after the end of the season Bills game, and it was seen the general statement at the time was that dropping from 1 to 4 was not a huge deal.
I am guilty of that. I am absolutely guilty of that.
Not me.
I am not trying to relitigate the debate of whether or not the team should have tried, quote, to lose, because I think every rational person understands there isn't anything more the team could have done to actively lose that game. I do want to revisit the sentiment that dropping from 1 to 4 was not a big deal, though. Specifically, Mike said that he was happy we could debate who the team would rather take it for rather than just settle on Travis Hunter. Do you all still feel the same, or has your thought process changed at all as it seems we are sitting at the precipice of a no man's land at 4 with the inability to ensure a blue chip prospect?
Well, talk to me after the draft, and if Hunter or Carter fall, then I'd probably go back to not really caring.
Yeah, I care. I was wrong because I think they're picking 4 in a two-man draft. So yeah, I would like to be in this position where I could get one of those two. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say I didn't say it. I did say it. The email is right. I didn't think it was that big a deal. My reasoning for saying it wasn't that big a deal is I didn't think there was a lot of value in one. I don't think people were going to be clamoring to trade up. And I was talking about at the time the quarterbacks. I don't think anything has happened since then to change my mind. Now, what I didn't know at the time was that really there's only 2 guys that everybody are lockstep being worthy of being taken that high.
Yeah.
And that's where I was wrong.
Me too. Me too.
I was wrong too.
You were on it. You thought. I mean, I still don't think it's like the be all end all, but I was wrong. There's 2 guys and you're picking 4th.
Yeah, I guess maybe the overrated part about it from my perspective was like you probably weren't going to get anything for the first overall pick in a draft like this, like the quarterbacks. To Paul's point, a lot of people I think thought, oh, well, we get a king's ransom for the first overall pick. Like, you lost out on
Yeah,
that.
I didn't think that existed.
Yeah, to me, we were right about the fact that they might miss out on Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter because they won that game, but that trade is probably not there. So I think we were both kind of right in a way.
But if you drafted Travis Hunter, I wouldn't feel as bad about it. I mean, that's one of the two guys. I think then the debate becomes, and this is the same debate we would have been having if they had the first overall pick, is Carter or Hunter? Who do you prefer? And then you could say, well, they got Hunter, but really Carter was the guy that you would have gotten at 1 overall, and that would have been the difference. But I was wrong in the moment, but we'll see. We'll see how it all unfolds.
So I like the Paul-like stubbornness. I'm going to wait and hold out until
not wrong yet.
April 24th. You're not wrong yet.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like
I'm
it.
not wrong yet.
That's
You are,
Paul-like.
but
That's
you're not.
Paul-like stubbornness. I appreciate it.
Sam in London also criticizing me. Just catching up with Tuesday's show for the first half hour. Despite Fred's protestations, all I can hear is Fred Kerr circa 2018, : Isaiah Wynn. Worst case scenario, he's a Pro Bowl guard. How'd that work out? Not saying it's going to happen. Campbell is a far superior prospect, but that kind of speculation is just a bit silly. Well, are we not supposed to speculate about guys going into the NFL? Like, isn't that the show?
We have a show to do today.
Like,
So
I guess we could just say every guy, I don't know how he's going to play.
I think, but I do think that you were operating under a premise that I don't think is right. I don't think it's any more correct for Will Campbell than it is anybody else. That's basically my point. Forget Isaiah Wynn.
Right.
He's a better prospect than Isaiah Wynn was. I would agree with you on that. But you have this notion that if he doesn't work out at tackle, there's no risk because he's a great guard. And I don't think that this guy is different than anybody else who's ever come in the league, that I don't have a worry that he can play at all.
Sure, but
You're
of
operating
course.
that there's no worry that he can play
Anything
somewhere.
can happen with anything, but we're trying to like minimize risk. You're trying to use the odds. You're trying to make your best guess.
Right.
My best guess with him,
and that's
is
my
that-
philosophical opposition to your theory.
Okay, so then
that's all.
But there's this, to me, there's a safety net there with him. You know, if he doesn't play tackle,
right.
it'll
And
be-
that's why,
yeah.
like, we all chime in. We all have our thoughts. Fred's thought is he doesn't see there being a possibility that he's not at least a good guard.
Right.
Like, someone else looks at it differently. I look at it differently. I don't think that there's any more of a chance that he's a good guard than there is of Ashton Genty being a great running back. I don't really see. I think that.
So is
if
there
you-
any guy that you're sure of anything?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Fine.
But you are. You're sure of Will
Right.
Campbell.
No, that's right.
That's the philosophical opposition.
I have a pair.
Right.
I have a pair, and you know,
pair of what?
No,
Jeans.
but no, you're right. You are sure that he's a good guard.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm willing to go out on a limb.
I'm more sure that Genty's going to be a productive running back than I am that Will Campbell's going to be a good guard.
I
Is
might say
planting
that,
my flag or not?
that's not the position. That's not a position
still
to,
kind of
to,
on the
to
fence.
draft.
Just
I might agree
just-
with you on that.
Just
I
say
just
that
don't
you like
like-
Genty, then you're planting your
Because
flag.
this, I'll be honest, this goes back like 10, 15 years of this draft stuff. And for some reason, and Fred will back me on this, offensive linemen are just perceived to be much safer than all the other positions. Like, go with the safe pick, the offensive line. Don't worry about Evan Neal, the fact that he's a couple years into his career, can't play, and they have to move him to guard now. That's a good thing, right? That's good. Like, I worry about that stuff. And I think there's a lot of people, Fred, this is not a shot at you, you know that.
Go ahead, take a shot at
No,
me. I
no,
don't care.
but a lot of people operate under the Fred theory of he's so good, he's safe. Like, I'm pretty sure these other guys that came out were really well thought of. These offensive linemen that didn't pan out in the top 10, Robert Gallery, Bill Belichick told me, was he was like a generational type prospect.
Short arms.
Didn't pan out. Like, for some reason, people think offensive line is safe. And I guess that's what I'm sort of pushing back on, more so than Fred's theory of if he doesn't work at tackle, he'll be a good guard.
But isn't that true with every player in the
Yes.
draft? Like,
yes,
you said
but
that
for some reason, offensive linemen are absolved of this.
Right, but like
Don't take a wide receiver. That's really risky.
But like Genty, for example.
Yes, there's huge risk.
Like, he played at Boise State.
What
Like,
if-
there's a
what
chance
if he's,
that.
What if he's Curtis Enos?
I
or,
wouldn't
you know,
go
one of these
that
other
far,
guys
but
that
I'm
got-
just saying, like, his specialty is
Kajana Carter.
is that he breaks a bunch of tackles. What if he gets to the pros and it ain't as easy to break the tackles anymore?
Correct.
Right? Like, that's all
what I
I'm
would-
saying.
that's
I'm
what
not saying that's going to be true.
And that's
It's
exactly
just-
what I would worry about. But the only difference between me and everybody else, not everybody else,
Well, you
but
just
a lot
worry
of other
about
people,
everything.
is I worry about the tackle not being able to block too. Not just the running back not being able to break tackles. But for some reason, We don't have a consensus here. Go with the
Is
safe
there
guy.
is there a
Go with the
position
tackle.
that you
Go
would
with Luke
draft?
Jokel. He'll
Like,
pan
What
out.
is your safe?
Yeah,
what is your safe word? What is
there
your
a
safe
s-
position?
there-
Running back.
Beth is my safe position. Whatever she tells me to do, she keeps me out of trouble.
Wait, what?
Whatever Beth tells me to do, that's
Oh.
going to keep me out of trouble.
Okay.
That's my safe word. Beth, what should I do, honey?
All right.
Yes.
On that
yes.
note, we're going to call it a show. Thanks everyone for listening, watching. We will see you next Tuesday.
Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.